What's going on, family? What's going on? How's it going? So welcome. So here I'm excited today. Today we're gonna be having a conversation that I've been wanting to have for some time. I have been watching the real estate market lately, maybe for a few years, watching how things are happening for people who are involved in a short-term rental business. And today, an interesting story has come across my attention where I feel like it's something worth having a conversation about. And so today, I've invited a few real estate investors to come and have a conversation with us to give us their opinion of what's happening around the country with efforts for cities to deter real estate investing from the short-term rental standpoint, and to address some questions that I have about how things are being done and whether or not it benefits the city, it benefits the investors, or it benefits the hotel lobbyists, and the organizations that are lobbying for companies like AirBnB, companies like Vrbo, to be shut down and to not have a space out here in the marketplace as it pertains to rentals and investing on a short-term basis. So today I'm excited to bring on gentlemen that I've brought on before. I've had them on the channel before, and we've discussed various other topics. And today I've invited them to come over and for us to have a conversation about this topic right here, and I have not talked to them about this, and I'm not sure if they're actually active in the short-term rental business. Right now, I can say that it's something that's real popular. It's something that's real popular, and it's been attractive for a few years. So I'm interested to hear what they say, given that they are savvy investors, and to hear what they have to say about the efforts that are being taken by the city, whether it's benefiting the city, it's benefiting the citizens, it's benefiting the lobbying companies for the hotel industry, or if it's benefiting the investors themselves, So I'm looking forward to it. So I'm going to bring up this first gentleman. He needs no introduction. His name is the Intentional Millionaire, and I'm going to let him tell you guys a little bit about himself. And so I'm not sure, Tim, if you're ready. I want to say he's good. Okay, he's good. All right. All right. Welcome to Intentional Millionaire. How's it going, sir?
Welcome. How is it going there, Sim?
Oh,
How's
man.
everything going?
Oh, it's great. It's great. I'm looking forward to us having this conversation today. And so why don't you tell the people a little bit about yourself? What makes you an interested party in this topic?
Well, first thing is because I own four rental properties.
Mm-hmm.
And I think real estate is definitely the way to go. At least from a fundamental standpoint of just being able to make cash flow, grow your net worth in the process, but also get a chance to get advantages of the tax system. So that's the reason why I definitely want to chime in on this topic. I think it's a fantastic topic. And with that being said, I think this is why you got to know, when you think about real estate, what niche and what part of real estate you want to go in, so you can understand all the nuance of that particular industry or strategy that you decide that you want to do when it relates to real estate. So that's kind of where I want to come in and talk about this topic today.
That's cool, man. I appreciate it, man. And I look forward to hearing your take on what some of these places around the country are doing in order for them to deter people from making money. So let's so I'm going to bring up the next gentleman who's also an investor. So his name is PerryUnlikely, and I'm going to let him introduce himself and speak on why he is interested in this topic. Good afternoon, Perry. How's it going?
Good. How's it going?
Man, welcome.
Good, man. Appreciate you guys having me for sure.
Oh yeah. So
always glad to come up and join the stream for sure, man.
No doubt. So, man, it's good to have you here, because I feel like you bring on some really good ideas to mind about various different real estate investing strategies, given your diverse approach to real estate investing. And so what would you say has made you interested in discussing this topic right here today?
Yeah, so I definitely, I invest in real estate, different types, everything from, owning. I have a partnership in a trailer park, on single family and multifamily. So I'm always just paying attention to the market as well. I do sell real estate as well. Some also. So just like to stay on top of the market, and I'm just in general, I like finance. So I think this is a great topic. I think a lot of topics like this, people think there's a one side, a one way fits all, but that's not necessarily true, and a lot of people think certain things that they hear out there don't impact them, but they don't have any clue that it actually does impact them. So they should definitely lean in and at least learn about it, if nothing else. So definitely excited to to discuss this topic for sure. Hey, I can't hear you.
You muted yourself, Sim.
My bad.
Oh yeah, you're good.
I'm pulling the Tim. So yeah, I appreciate you guys coming on, man. Hey, so I got a funny story to tell, right? So look, it was probably 1988, 1989, something like that, right? So I was at that time the only boy. My sister was off in boarding school or something like that, right? So here I am at home, and I'm playing in the yard, doing whatever I do, keeping myself busy. And I had a friend who lived like a couple of doors down, right? So I was bored, went to go grab his bike, right? So I went to go grab his bike. I'm riding it down the street, enjoying the bike, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this older guy, and let me see, I was probably 8. So this guy walks up to me. He's like every bit of like maybe 14 years old. And he says to me, he says, "Hey, man." He says, "Hey, I like your bike, man." He said, it looks pretty cool. He said, "Is it fast?" And I said, I don't know. He said, "Man, it looks fast." He said, "It looks fast." He says, "Let me check it out," right? So I said, "Oh," I look at him for a second and I'm like, "What?" Right? He says, let me ride it real quick. Let me see if it's fast like it looks, right? So the guy gets on the bike, right? So mind you, so I stay on top of a hill, right? I stay on top of a hill, but you can see the houses that are down the hill, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe like, let's say 500 feet away, there's like a little dirt path that like allows you to kind of cut through and then go to the street that's far away, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I let the guy ride the bike. He says, "Hey, I'm just going to ride it to down there, and then I'm going to come right back," right? So he gets on the bike, and he's riding it, right? He rides it down there, and I see him going down there, and he gets down there, and he turns, and he goes down the hill, right? And I'm like, "Oh man, maybe he's going to come back," right? And he keeps riding, right?
Oh man,
he keeps riding, and then man, he goes through the woods and rides the bike and crosses the street, and I'm like, "Damn, man. I borrowed my friend's bike, and then he got stolen," right?
Man.
Right. So I'm sitting up there, man, and that's when I learned, man. And I should have known, man, because back then it was rough, man. People were stealing VCRs. They were stealing refrigerators. They were doing all kinds of wild stuff back then, man. So anything that was not tied down, TVs, they would steal it, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember saying to myself, I was like, "Man, I can't trust nobody," right? And that was the first lesson right there. That regardless of what people say, don't trust what they say.
Nope.
And so, so this is a liken to what we're going to talk about today, man. Right? Because I think that everyone has a motive, right? And what's really interesting to me is I think I've seen over time, I've seen experiences of like situations where like people are making money and people around you are not always happy that you're making money. You know, like as I've seen the short-term real estate investing business, I've noticed that, man, that there's cities that don't really like it. And legitimately, some of them have a really legitimate reason. Oh my God. Some of them have a legitimate reason for not really liking the loud parties and the negative attention that comes to these neighborhoods. But some of them just don't really like the fact that money's being generated outside of the hotel industry, you know? So today I want to talk about this right here. And I was actually surprised by it because it's something that I was not really familiar with. So let me share this right here. Let me share this. Actually, hold on. Before I get to that, let me share one last story about people you can't trust, right? Look at this. I'm gonna share something else with you guys real quick. This is a little bit off the cuff. It just came to mind though, but we're gonna build it as we fly it. Let me share something with you guys real quick. So you know how we talk about the lead attorney. You know how the lead attorney talks about. Here we go. You know how we were talking about the lead attorney. The lead attorney to go to forego the child, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been a vegetarian since 2015. So I haven't made it to no Brazilian steakhouse, right? But let me share something with you guys real quick. Let me see. We're building this as we fly it. I want to share something with you. If I could pause it so stop moving. Okay. All right. Let me share something with you guys. You know, there's like a saying that says that, you know, somebody is hating, right? So let me share with you guys something real quick. What I believe to be like a textbook example of like someone who's hating, right? Oops, not that part. What is that doing? I'm trying to increase my screen over here, but here we go. All right. But check this out, guys. So you know how the lead attorney likes to go to Brazilian steakhouses, right? So there's this place here in Raleigh, right? This place is the, oh my God, I can't. It's the number one Brazilian spot in the area, right? So
Right.
they're known for having $80 plays, being real busy. It's in a nice shopping center, right? And they don't draw negative attention. These guys had just made $4 million. They've just recently made $4 million. Within, I want to say last year, they were on track to make $4 million this year. Right here. The restaurant's ongoing success included making $4 million last year, their best year to date, right? Imagine you had just made $4 million, right? And you counting in the chips, you rubbing your hands, doing the Birdman rub, and you're telling yourself, look, last year we made 4, one pace to make 5. And then the company that you're leasing from says, hold on, man. He says, no, this year we're not going to allow you to renew your lease, you know, because we want to go in a different direction, you know? Can you guys imagine making that much money in 1 year and then having to deal with the possibility of having to relocate and go somewhere else? Like, do you guys think that there are any legitimate reasons for a shopping center to say they don't want to do business with you after you've had a $4 million year the year before? What would you say, Tim?
I would say it's got to be backstory, because to me it doesn't sound like it was a business move. It sounded like it was based off of some personality conflict somewhere.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
that's me personally.
Yeah, I agree with that. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's you're spiting yourself. Doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so it's possibly some personality issues, or some contractual issues that wasn't resolved, or something of that nature. But I definitely think this is a direct indication that it's the people part of business that we cannot really plan for, because you just don't know sometimes. That's the unknown that can change at a fly.
Yeah, so this is the thing right here. He said that the mainstay ended a 16-year run in the same shopping center, citing the inability to renew their lease after refusing to change the restaurant concept. Right? So 16 years of running a business, and the shopping center, they said that I said no. Why would I want to do that? Owner Payman Bazo Band said, I already have a successful business. I have followers. I have an established business. Why would I want to close that and start up another concept? The shopping center said that they wanted to have a different restaurant concept in their place, and they wanted him to remodel his setup. And essentially, this is what I've been told people have there, is that it was one of those situations where you have like a flag where it's green for more meat to come and then red if you want the meat to stop coming.
Right.
And so it's the same. I want to say it's the same model that they have everywhere else. It's Fogo, right? And it's just wild to me that it says that nearing the end of the lease, as the landlord searched for a different concept, it says that the owner took a look at different food. Excuse me, the owner of the shopping center was looking at a different look and different food for the shopping center. I mean, it's just wild to me right here. And he says he offered him a short-term lease, but didn't want to remain as an option until they found something to replace the restaurant with. But I mean, I don't know what they're looking for, but they did not offer me a lease. So the person that owned the shopping center didn't offer them the lease. This part of it still doesn't make sense to many people in the industry. But I don't know, man.
Wonder if there's a lawsuit.
I don't know, man. I mean, that's
detrimental to. I mean, just what you're going to lose and having to move and all that. Definitely seems. It's definitely interesting.
But I don't think there's you're under any obligation to renew your lease, though, are you?
Right, because I was gonna say, how is that even a suing situation when if the lease was fulfilled, what can he really sue?
Mm-hmm.
It seems like. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I would. Of course, I haven't seen the lease, but I do wonder. Typically, there would be, and maybe the time has run out. Right. Typically, even when your lease is done, you still have to give notice, right? You can't. It's not like the lease ends and you're just out. I mean, there's tons of even just in regular residential leases, there's tons of people that haven't been in their lease for 20 years. But when you want to break it, you still have to break it just from like the terms of eviction. It's still some sort of eviction. So I was just curious if it was like, hey, you got to get out today, or if they went through the formal notice process or whatever. But yeah, if they went through the normal steps or whatever and gave them their their time frame. But what I would do, I would make sure to blast out everywhere all over town how I was treated to try to jack up the next. That's just how I would do. Just because to me, if the relationship we've had, and you said 16 years.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't allow me at least enough time to try as seamless as possible to move my business, to me that lacks of character. That's me saying that, not knowing what other details there are, though. So there certainly could be other details. What I'm talking about, that's if everything's clean or perfect. I would probably be letting people know why we've come to this conclusion. But there's always two sides to every story, for sure. And with a lot of restaurants, there's bigger problems. They have bars, you have noise complaints, so there's so much that it could be other than just this simplified issue.
And you know what I said? I said that maybe it was like a sanitation issue, man. Like
Right.
do these places, these Brazilian steakhouses, do they go through like a lot of meat, and maybe it was becoming like a greasy mess at the back of the building or something? I'm really not sure, but it's in a nice area. Imagine like just your run of the mill upper middle class area with condos and ample housing, no low income housing anywhere close to the area. So
Right.
it's definitely a pseudo affluent area, golf course across the street and stuff like that, you know. So it's not a poor area at all, man. But you know, there were 80 people that were laid off as a result of it, you know.
Man, that's crazy.
And but it was a busy place, and I just couldn't imagine, man, like just me setting my sights on making $6 million, and that's what I'm focused on, and then discovering that you can't make it because they don't want to renew your lease. But I'll tell you another story. I came across another place, Smoothie King. Maybe it's 2019. Similar story, right? The people refused renew the lease with the guy, and the guy said I have an itchy feeling that he's leasing out to another smoothie place. And I said it wouldn't make sense to go from one smoothie place to another. A couple of years passed. There's a tropical smoothie there now when there was a Smoothie King before. So, you know, whoever was there must have propositioned them with like some kind of really good offer in order for them to do that, right? So
that's crazy.
So we're going to move on to the subject at hand right here, right? So go ahead.
I wanted just to add one thing to possibly consider too.
Go ahead, Tim.
The owner may have other interests, because who knows, that area somebody may have been looking at that area from some different type of development, something more industrial, something more commercial. So the best way for them to see a bigger profit gain was to get them out, because they have more potential. Something to think about as well. So
you're right about that. I mean, what is the hottest? I don't know, what, a steakhouse? I don't know what would be a better restaurant model than a Brazilian steakhouse. I mean, who has higher place prices outside of that? Outside of like maybe a Capital, you know, a Capital Steakhouse or something like that. But I mean, we have those, but not in. We actually have Angus Barn right around the corner, which has $100 place, but not in that specific shopping center though. But go ahead. Were you gonna say something, Perry?
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe it's hard to say. I mean, to me, it's probably it could have been something else was coming up, or even maybe they wanted to get a longer term lease. Maybe, I mean, it's hard to say, but yeah, it seems pretty wild.
Yeah. So question to you guys. So have either of you considered having any short-term rental businesses of any sort?
Not me personally, no.
Not you. What about you, Perry? Have you considered having something to like similar to an Airbnb or a Vrbo or something along those lines?
Yeah, I've thought about it several times, but when I say I've thought about it, literally just initial stages, not anywhere near actually, you know, pulling the trigger and hopping into it. Just because I know I know more about the long-term rental market. And because my plans are not necessarily built on my plans are also more long-term anyway. Mm-hmm. So I just haven't really, that's the main reason I haven't. And though there's work to be done with long-term rentals, short-term, I mean, you think about a hotel, right? There's more stuff that you're going to have to oversee, you know, turning the beds, things like that, having stuff cleaned up. What happens when keys get lost? What happens when there's issues? When stuff gets broken, and stuff can get broken for sure in a regular lease, but it's, you know, it's a little bit different than, hey, I'm gonna have to get this hole fixed today to be able to get someone back in here, you know, those types of things. So I haven't really thought about it at this point. And not to mention, now it's getting to the point where some of these different places are having laws and things like that. So it even takes a lot of work just to make sure, you legally can do it in certain places and things like that. So, yeah, I had thought about it to answer your question, but never gotten in really to the implementation phase or anything like that.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's so what would be a good number? What's a good number from a profit standpoint that you think you should make in order for you to have something worthwhile from a rental income standpoint, maybe even on a monthly basis, maybe after net profit, after everything's been considered?
So with me not knowing that business model as much as I obviously know long term, I think about when I think about long term, I really and these deals have gotten harder, but they're still there. A 10% cap rate, I like 10%, 12%, even really higher. And what that is basically, what type of annual return am I getting? If I buy a property for $100,000, can I get, 10,000, over per year. Right. Or another way to look at it is what used to be, and you could find even 2% deals, but I used to run the numbers, and if it's a 1% deal, I don't have to ask any questions. $100,000 home, and I can get $1,000 rent a month. I don't even have to ask any questions. Put an offer in. We'll work it out. We'll work the details out after that. Those are a lot harder to get now, for sure. And used to be a time you can get a $50,000 property and get $1,000 rent. I mean, that's those things, man. You have to hurt somebody to get a deal like that now. It's not 2008, but, so to me, just not really understanding the ins and outs fully, although I do kind of read up on these types of stories and things like that, because I'm at least wanting a 10%, minimum. And I'd rather it be higher than that, to be honest, more like 12 or 15. For me to get into that, I need it to be near double is what I want. Because the more work I got to do, the more I'm expecting out of it. And I need a bigger buffer to cover those reserves for issue. More issues can happen. I need more of a buffer there. So I would want to see on a short-term type thing, no doubt I'm going to want to see 20-25% returns annually because of the fact, think about a hotel. See, people will tear up a long-term rental already. But now when you got potentially, depending on what type of rental it is, right? You got 7 to 20 different families or people coming in there a month. It's just, it's like a rental car, right? When people want to test their speed, they do it in the rental car. That's when they do it. They go, trust me, if I bet if you ask most people, have they ever went 100 miles an hour? I guarantee you over 50%, maybe 60. Yeah. Oh yeah. I had that rental one time, but they didn't test their own car like that. So I feel like you're going to get more of those instances in that short-term rental type of application.
Yeah. But couldn't we make the argument that if somebody's tearing up your house, right? If they're tearing it up over a 6-month period, wouldn't it be harder to see if they're doing it over the course of a 6-month period compared to a 6-day period where you can see it a little bit sooner? And so the wear and tear would be potentially less and you have an opportunity to mitigate and address it, as opposed to you waiting until the end of the year and you finding holes punched in the wall and your blinds are torn down. Wouldn't you also say that the amount of time that you wait in a long-term rental takes away the opportunity for you to address those matters that you would address a little bit faster in a short-term rental? Is that not true?
Yeah. So I'm with you, but I actually think it's the way I look at it. With a long-term rental, to me, it's baked in though, right? Even the little deposit I get, for the most part, that there's a good chance that's not going to cover. If there are some damages, it'll help, but it's not really going to cover it. But what I've made over the long haul, because see, I have a better chance of getting you to go more than a year, maybe 2, maybe 3. And every year I can go without having to move someone else in, try to fill that spot, is just more money in my pocket. So for me, I'm looking at it, and I do agree with that, but that's why, for the most part, you should be setting some type of thing in there in the lease that does allow you to do an inspection just to see what, like, and I'm not saying you got to go to this extent, but think about this. You could, if you wanted to, for $350, right? Somewhere around there, you could simply say every 6 months, and that's an overkill, but you could say, I'm going to do a homeowner's inspection. Now, I'm not saying you need to do that, but you would be able to match them up and see, okay, what's the difference? I mean, there are ways to mitigate that if you just didn't really know how to go in and check and needed that. But for me, the biggest thing when it comes to short term is, to me, the risk is the sheer number of people in there. So the more people you have in there, the more opportunity there is going to be for there to be accidents and things like that. And also, right, maybe even the liability. I believe there's liability in having people come into a space, and I'm sure it's probably mitigated through the wording, but people just coming into a space they're not familiar with, you know, I mean, what's more dangerous, a person that lives in a place, knows the place well, or some spring breaker coming in, hanging over the rails, and you know what I'm saying? So it depends on what type of place it is, though, but there's a lot of factors there.
What you think, Tim? What you think?
I totally agree with what Perry stated. I also think when you talk about because you got high turnover, I like to look at short term as high turnover. Because you have high turnover, that means you're gonna need more people, staff to go support. So I think the expenses is gonna get killed, but I also think the longevity of somebody staying at a place, the more ownership they take, because then they start to treat it as though it's theirs. Now, in the chance of you getting numbers work actually in your favor with long term versus short term, because with long term you just need one good one and they'll be around a lot longer. Whereas in short term, you got to go through so many numbers before you find a good one. So I say for every short term, out of 10 tenants that come through, 2 of them gonna be great and the other 8 gonna be suspect. So I and when you look at anything from a sample scenario, that's normally how it works. 20%, the 80-20 rule. So that's what I would say. I would kind of go with that. But also with the short term, the challenge that I see is because most short term type of setups go through another entity where they don't have all the extra headache, but they making the biggest bulk of the money.
Yeah. So you're talking about like the booking company or something like that, right?
Yeah, like Airbnb or whatever. See, the Airbnb corporation itself don't have all the headache. They just only in charge of you listing through their portal.
Right.
So if I was to do short term, my job would be like Airbnb, not the person that's listing on Airbnb. But that's just me, though.
The hosting, I get it. Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Check this out, right? So this was like before. This is like during. This is before the pandemic. Right? So Raleigh, for the record, guys, Raleigh is closed, right? There's no more spaces left in Raleigh. You know, there might be some spaces in Atlanta, you know,
right?
There might be some spaces somewhere else, but Raleigh's closed right now. But I'm just joking. And so there was a guy that I know, through a friend. He has a house in downtown Raleigh, right?
Right.
So he's renting out his house $500 a day, right?
Right.
With a 2-day minimum, right? So whenever they get his house, they get it for 2 days. Right. He has an apartment only so he can have a place to lay his head whenever his rental was being whenever his house is being rented out.
Right.
And the city of Raleigh has this, this rule that they created where they said, hey, you cannot have an Airbnb unless it's your primary residence, right? And you have to get a permit through us, and you have to be authorized to do it, do an inspection, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was just having his place so rented out 65% of the time. And to me, if you're in a high tourism area, to me, it's a no-brainer, you know? If you're in a high tourism area and you have an opportunity to rent your place out for $500 a day with a 2-day minimum, you guys are telling me that y'all would give that up in order for you guys to have a long-term tenant in place?
No, sir. We're not telling you that. No,
right.
so when you,
but I think that scenario is different because the requirement is it has to be their primary residence. I think,
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So I think in that case, then that's a whole different scenario. I think now we kind of mixing apples and oranges, because when you look at your primary residence and then you get that level of leverage, that only gonna make sense for most people in certain scenarios, because most people is not going to want to rent out their primary residence. So for one, you got to really consider, is it a family involved? You know, if you think about somebody like myself as a single person, it's just me staying there. Okay, that sounds great. But somebody like Perry with a wife and kids, that ain't the greatest scenario. Because you got to think about now, it's not just Perry's decision, his wife's decision, but then he got kids. He don't just want anybody coming around his kids.
Yeah.
So I think that's where you got to. That's why I say I think it's kind of mixing apples and oranges, because when you talk about primary residence and then, you know, short term from just an investment, you know, it's just your investment property. I just think that's a little different, at least for me.
Well, and that's a good point. That's a good point, right? Because the two people that I do know, they're both single and they both do the same exact thing. 2-day minimum. They charge $500 a day, and both of them are located in areas where there's a high tourism population that comes. So when people come for conventions and they come to downtown Raleigh, they stay in the downtown one, and when the other one is having an event close to their house, the people stay at their house and they have a 2-day minimum. So they make at least $1,000 each time. But you're right. They're not having to tell their children, hey, okay, we're not going to sleep in the house today, you know, because we have some people coming in. We're going to go to grandma's house or something like that. They're not having that situation. So that is a good point. You know, depending upon your lifestyle and what you have in place, you're not going to just be picking up and moving, you know.
But I say for any single male out there, absolutely he need to be doing that.
Yeah, that type of bread too. Absolutely.
I even think some single women, just depends on their personality type, can do that as well, but it could be a little bit more tricky because, you know, they got to think about the guy friends and all that stuff of the women that they may be renting to. But I think for any single male, absolutely. Any single man need to do anything to make more money. There's no reason to sit around. You got this place wasting all this space and you ain't making no money. Like I said, for me, I rent out rooms. So, I mean,
and it's already got, you know, for me, right, that already has my wheels turning, because I'm thinking, and I am moving here in the next maybe 2 years or whatever, but I may look at, and we had looked at a place anyway, right? We had looked at some place for like a guest house for my in-laws, but my in-laws have moved here now. So I may still move forward with that plan, but that guest house, right, is now, or maybe a place over a separate garage is now for like an Airbnb. You know what I'm saying? Like there's still ways to tailor it, but yeah, when you talk about being able to make that amount, I mean, any way you kind of, it stacks up. When you're talking $500 a night, it's going to cover any risk that I was previously talking about. It should anyway. I mean, it pretty much should, you know, it still depends on the situation, but when you're able to do that well, yeah, there's no, I mean, you'd be crazy not to.
And you know, there's also that concept, you know, the higher you charge, the higher class the people that are going to be attracted to it, you know. So you know, there's also that concept, you know. So I think that, you know, I was shocked to discover it, man. I had to go and see it for myself. I'm not going to lie, right? because when I started my journey here in Raleigh, I started out in downtown Raleigh. And for me to see places that are renting for $500 a day in downtown Raleigh for one day, I said, man,
crazy.
I mean, these houses, let's say, talking about the 1% rule, that you're talking about, right? These houses are $500,000, right? $500,000, $600,000 at the time, and they're renting for $500 a day. So, I mean, it makes sense. So, with that in mind, right? So, this is a story that I've recently come across, right? And I had no idea this was happening. Now, are you guys familiar with the rent to locals or the rent local programs? Are you guys familiar with any rent local programs at all?
No, I'm not.
All right. So what essentially it is, it's supposed to be an effort to make housing more accessible to people who are local as opposed to people who are like outsiders, right? So remember what I was saying earlier about how when there's tourism in an area, it draws a lot of attention to an area, right? And so when you have places like Sedona, right, for instance, and I've never been to Sedona, but I heard Sedona is a really good place for going for like healing and meditation and crystals and various different stuff. And so in this article right here, the city of Sedona is offering Airbnb owners $10,000 annually in order for them to rent the houses. Instead of renting it on the short-term rental market, they're trying to incentivize them to lease it out to locals in exchange, And the way that they're selling the model, they're saying that they can actually make more money renting out to locals than they can actually make renting out to people who are from the outside, right? So in this article right here, it said the city is willing to pay thousands of dollars to local owners who offer long-term leases to local workers who can't find a place to live, right? They're saying a lack of affordable housing in the area has prompted the city officials to allocate funds for a pilot program that incentivizes homeowners to stop leasing out homes to visiting tourists, right? So what's really interesting to me is that it's like, okay, so this is an area that has a good amount of tourism, right? So are they saying that they don't want the tourists to come to this place? Or are they saying that they want the people who are benefiting from the tourists coming in town, they want them to stop renting out to tourists, and then they want now the locals to be made a priority, What do you guys think about a model like this? Do you think that it makes sense for a city to be saying that people who are short-term rental owners should prioritize locals instead of people who are visiting tourists who are going to be there for a couple of days, a week, or something like that, and rent to them instead of the people who are visiting? What do you make of it, Tim?
I would say my first thing is I would think the city wants to do that because, one, it keeps people in the city, but also the city has a financial perspective because it's more city tax. And if they don't have city tax, that still means it's more money that flows in that city, which helps support the schools, helps support the roads, helps support some of the operations of the city. So I think the city has an interest in that, but also too, I think with so many people just passing through, it's hard for a city to gauge where they need to go or what they need to do for the people that's actually there. If everybody's just only there just to turn property for tourism. See, they don't have nothing they could really have the city stand on if it's just only for a position of business, if that make any sense.
Yeah, I agree. I think that makes sense. I think the main reason they would be doing that is likely people are getting priced out of the long-term rental market. So they're having to move. Mm-hmm. And any way you look at it, when it comes down to taxes, the long-term, renters, that tax money is going a lot further than those short-term, people that are coming in town. So I actually don't, at face value, inherently, that doesn't sound like a bad approach, I guess, up front. Now, every move you make, there's always going to be some counter thing that happens because of it, but I'm sure that's what it is. They're wanting that. And as Tim said, how do you keep, you're wanting to have some base, right? I guess like to keep people there, long-term. So I just think these short-term rentals have been another thing to take so many towns and places by storm that, these are some of the side effects, right? And everyone's scrambling. And I think the biggest thing, first of all, is a lot of these places are just trying to get on board and just get some type of money from it, like tax money, or you got to have some sort of a license and things like that. And then, they've done that first. And now going deeper, they're saying, hey, with what's happening with inflation, we got a whole nother problem. There's not even enough stuff out there on the market that people can afford. And we don't want the type of scenario where, people are leaving the city, because we don't want this city built on, outsiders, essentially.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tim. Go ahead.
I was gonna say it's almost like running a city, but you have no residents.
You're right.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to gauge anything. And then also too, what it does too, it may seem as though it attracts business, but it may not attract business, because when you deal with tourism, that could be seasonal. That's going to be based off of the economy. All those things play an effect. But if you have it locally and local businesses, they always going to be there. It's kind of like they just ain't going to jump up and go anywhere.
But the people are working in the tourism industry, though. I mean, Sedona, how many? I'm not familiar. And maybe someone in the chat can say it, right? Like, what is Sedona known for? To me, Sedona's always been known as like a place you go visit as like some kind of healing retreat. It's never been, I've never heard of it being anything more than that. Now, this is what they're saying. They're saying that the city council is spending $240,000 on stipends for property owners to rent out their homes, who rent out their homes currently through the short-term rental services, but really just moving them towards a local program instead, right? They're going to pay people $3,000 for a single bedroom, all the way up to $10,000 for a 3-bedroom house, in exchange for them to agree to rent to a local for a 1-year lease. I mean, that could be like a decent little side hustle for someone who's in a situation. But I mean, when you're weighing your options, Airbnb, the city, I don't know. I mean, because here they're saying it's $2,000 a month for an apartment. You can't. You said you'd be really hard pressed to find anything for rent under $2,000.
Right.
So I just think that it's really interesting, right? And they're saying that this is what one of the owners said. He said that if the city is willing to be paying me $6,000 a month, because that's the average amount of income that he's making. He says other rental owners said that they wouldn't be able to take the city up on the offer because they live in their rentals part-time and couldn't commit to a year lease. So this is what we were just talking about, right? People who are using these places as primary residents, so they can't participate in this program right here because they're already in those spaces. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you living in the house, you could consider either $3,000, but they're probably going to still choose Airbnb over the city, because they could maybe make more than $3,000 a year compared to what they can make from the city. What were you going to say, Perry?
Yeah, I was just thinking it still goes to show how people just naturally don't take a business approach to a lot of stuff, because think about all the equity people have gotten right over these, over this time and all that.
Mm-hmm.
To me, depending, I'm going to try to take them. Now, I will try to take them up on their offer and move, right? You know what I'm saying? I'm going to try to find any way I can to make it work to the best, to the best of the advantage I can get. It just depends on what but like, at least the one person did analyze, look, I'm making about 6,000. They're offering me 6,000. Yeah. And in that case,
a month.
Yeah. And that's a month. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's, so yeah, I think it's, I think the plan sounds good, but a lot of people, especially right, if some people bought those homes just for that purpose. Are they going to be able to make enough money? Right. So I just think it's a case by case scenario.
Let me show you guys a breakdown. Oops, hold on. Let me show you guys. This is what they modeled it after. If I could get this together, we're struggling over here. All right, I'm trying to get this to where you guys can see it. 200%, 200%. Oh, it changed the page. That's what happened. Okay, I was wondering what happened. Can you guys see that? I don't know. It's kind of small. Hold on. I don't really like the side, but I don't like the size. Let me check it one more time. 200, 250. Let's see. It's way too much. Okay. All right. So if I'm struggling with this Mac, I'm still trying to figure out. Let's see. It won't let me change it. All right. All right. Let's do 200.
You trying to change the size?
I was trying to change it to 220, 225, but it won't let me do it. It's just
see if you try and hit Command plus and just see if it will go up.
No, it goes up. I wanted it to go to 2. See,
I got what you're saying. Yeah, trying to get in between there.
Yeah, 250 is too big.
Yeah, and then yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Well, actually, we'll just go for it. Check this out.
Yeah, that looks good.
Let's do the side by side, right? So
right.
This is how the numbers work out, right? So here we go, Tim. Right. So your gross income annually is $44,000, right? You're being charged 8% for the lodging, right? And 4% for the resort tax, right? And then you're doing the cleaning, the management, right? 20%, right? Utilities 3%, the rental insurance, short-term rental insurance, $1,700. The same maintenance is $1,000, right? Total expenses is about $20,000, right? So that puts you right at $23,000 net profit, right? Right here. That's what they're saying, right? This is based upon 45% occupancy, and it says it somewhere up here. 45% occupancy, and then this is how much the rate is per day, right here. $267 per day, right? So then this is what they're saying. If you were to rent it to a local using the rent local program, right? That same 2-bedroom, right? The gross income from the city, they would give you the incentive $1,000 per bedroom a month, right? $24,000. That's how much your rent is, right? Then they're giving you the $6,000 as the incentive right here annually. This is for a 2-bedroom right here, right? 2-bedroom, excuse me. So they're giving you $6,000. So you're getting a total of $30,000.
Right.
And they're saying that you're missing out on the lodging, you're missing out on the management, utilities, landlord insurance, $875. Maintenance is maybe $2 per $1 square foot. Does that make sense for maintenance, Tim or Perry?
Let's see.
$2 per square foot. Is that a number that would make sense?
Yeah.
I never knew that you would calculate it by square foot.
Yeah, I mean that's not something I've done, but I mean it's just another way of doing it. I've not done it that way. myself. I just set like kind of a flat number, but it would still break down to per square foot either way.
What were you saying, Tim?
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the way some people do it. It's kind of like you having an office in, you having a business and having an office at your house, and you got to manage out your utilities and the cost of running your office based off of square footage.
Right.
So that would make sense.
Yeah,
that's just the normal. That's actually the book method way that the IRS would prefer most people to do it, but you don't have to do it that way.
Okay. Right.
Because otherwise you would back into that number based upon how much you actually spent, dividing it by the amount of square feet that you have, right?
That's correct.
Gotcha.
Right.
Gotcha. Right. So what they're saying is at the end of the day, that same exact property, you would have $25,000 net income as a result of you taking advantage of their program. Now they have this right here, this home share program. This home share program is charging you $2,000. And I think when I looked it up, it was like some kind of required program for you to be a part of this housing trust. Essentially, it's like it's the same thing as like an Airbnb thing, but it's some program that really incentivizes for you to rent out to locals. It's a trust. Let me see. I looked it up. These are the different numbers right here that they were offering. Like I was saying, the city of Sedona is modeling what they got from this city right here. I mean, from this company right here. It says city's officials say that the new program is modeled after similar incentives offered in communities in Montana and California that had become overwhelmed with too many vacation rentals. Right. So this is where they got it from. For one bedroom for 6 months, you get $2,100, $5,400, 2 years, $11,000. And it's just a breakdown based upon the amount of rooms. And I say that, it's to meet the community shortage. One immediate solution is to convert some of the 950 plus vacation rentals into homes for Big Sky's nurses, teachers, sheriffs, emergency personnel. So these are like the city workers. These are probably the people who are probably the most important to them. So that would make sense for those people. But I mean, I don't know if it would make sense for many people outside of that. What do you guys say? Do you think that it makes sense to prioritize locals in place of prioritizing foreign money from outside? What do you guys think?
But before I answer that question, my first concern would be, how long is the stipend? See, because if the stipend only good for 1 year, 2 years, then after that, actually it doesn't make sense mathematically.
Right.
So that's the first caveat. For me, nothing else even gonna matter if the stipend gonna stop after 2 years.
What do you think, Perry?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think obviously that's a big part of it, is how much, how long does that run? And even if it was advantageous during that time frame, it still is a business, right? So especially if you're newer in it, think about all the positive reviews and all that you're giving up to then only go and start down the road, right? So that's just something, because you get reviews and things like that, and you build up that trust, because they did those numbers based on 50% occupancy, right? Or 45%. But what if you can get it to full occupancy or near full? Well, will it be full probably all the time? Probably not. But what if you can add another 20% on there, 65%? I mean, so the business side of that tells me, if, it's about knowing your business. I was looking it up, and I did see like some of the attractions there. Like you can do a day trip to the Grand Canyon, things like that. So if the attraction, because that's data I would want to know. I would want to know, and not that they have to tell you, but so what are you guys in town for? What are you checking out? I want to be collecting data. And if it's those types of attractions that are long term, I would feel like it's better to build that business. Well, and by the way, that doesn't necessarily, you still got to assess, is it better in the first place, right, to do long term or short term? But the fact that you're taking this, you had already made that choice to do short term. So with that, if you're going to be doing it long term, I guess it's kind of confusing. If you're going to be doing short term for years or whatever, to me, you just work on growing that business and probably don't accept don't accept it unless your occupancy is just extremely low. It might be a plan you do at the beginning, right? If you're not that great at it.
I think we got one, guys. I think we got one. We're turning them slowly.
Yeah, it might be a plan you do at the beginning if you're not that great at it. So it just depends. I think it's case by case basis.
What about you, Tim? Are you ready to come over to the dark side, man?
I would need more data, me personally, because I'm still stuck on how long is the stipend. Because anything the government stipend, they can take away. Just depends on who's the next council member come in, and they don't like the program or they want to show their authority. They just start getting rid of programs. So,
right.
I mean, that's just me though. That's from a business standpoint. I would not want to ever build my business around the government and stipends. But just me though.
Right.
Listen, man. Listen. But
the only way I would do that is if the stipend is helping me get in to jumpstart the growth of the business or the foundation for the business. But to maintain and operate it, no, I don't trust that too well.
Hold up, man. I don't believe you, Tim, because we have the dairy industry. I mean, we have the dairy industry that's supported by subsidies, and the thing about it that's interesting, and this is going to bring me to my next topic. But go ahead.
I was going to say, but the difference in all those industries, they pay the government for certain type of regulations.
So
yeah,
I mean,
all the regulations is funded by entities that force the government to write regulation.
Yeah, I mean, they have lobbying power. They have people that they're hooking up though.
So there you go. So me coming in with my business that doesn't have no lobbying authority, no.
Look at Uncle Stu.
It's a good chance they could probably pull the money if they decide they want to pull the money. So
come on, Uncle Stu. So look at Uncle Stu. He says the Fed is not the state. Come on, it's a trickle down, man. It's a trickle down. It trickles down. I mean, it comes from the Fed and then it comes down to the state. You don't agree, Uncle Stu? Look at Uncle Stu.
But that's me though. I mean, I don't know.
Salute Uncle Stu, old man on the block. I mean, I don't know, man. It's just like it's one of those situations, man, that what do they call it? Corporate welfare or something like that, man. I mean, if we're being honest, we could say the dairy industry is participating or benefiting from corporate welfare. I mean, I'm saying that I don't know the details of it, but from what I've heard, that they're held up by those subsidies that the government gives them. Do we think that? Would we say that subsidies are bad?
But I still think you're using a industry that has the time, that has the time history, been forever. I think you're using big corporations that has a lot more leniencies, has a lot more power compared to somebody like myself, or Perry, that's starting out and we're trying to build our organization. I think that's still the difference, because for one of those companies, they have more backing financially, policy wise, just consumer wise. They just have more backing. They can do wrong actually, and people still come do business with them. They can sell you a product. They can sell you some ice cream, and it had E. coli in it, and regardless of what happened, people still gonna go buy their ice cream the following the next month.
Seen it happen multiple times.
Whereas for us, if we take this deal and we have one bad thing happen with our relationship with the stipend, it could cause us not to be in business no more. That's the difference.
Right.
Does a body good. Man. Go ahead.
But I don't know. I mean, that's just my opinion. It's different ways you could look at this. I think Perry said it best, though. I think somebody starting out, this could be actual leverage for them because they could build their credibility, they could build their brand, and then eventually they can go to getting away from locals.
Mm-hmm.
Just depends. So, or some of both.
Right. In general, I'm not interested in doing deals with the government. I mean, I'm not, and that's not even from a conspiracy thing. It's just, I'm not trying to get in bed with the government. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather just go out and do my thing and get it my own way. You know what I'm saying? Personally, that's me, overall. But, I do think it is a case by case basis. And, if you're not that great at it, maybe you should consider it. I mean, let's face it. If you've been trying to do short-term rentals, you're just not that great at the business side of it, and then you can just, hey, go ahead and get this easy cut each month. You maybe you should consider it. I think it's, you make the business move for sure.
Okay, hold up. Now we got someone up here. He's got a guest with him too. All right, we got Uncle Stu, the old man on the block.
Yeah, playing granddaddy. You know what I'm saying?
We got Grandpa on the scene. What's going on, Uncle Stu? What you think?
What's going on, Uncle Stu?
You think we should be in
Intentional, PerryUnlikely, SimSiya?
You think we should be in bed?
All of y'all. I'm just gonna speak to the business side of the federal government versus the business side of the state government.
Hold on, Uncle Stu. Should we be in bed with the government? It's both on the state level and the federal level. Are you gonna be able to answer that question for us?
Sure. Business is business, no matter where the money comes from. So if you're looking at the federal, what can the federal do that the state can't do? The federal can create money, the state cannot. So the federal, because it can create money, is always going to be a generation of wealth, where the state cannot do it because they're on a budget. So is when you're looking at city and state money, if the state decides they need to cut money because of less taxes, guess what happens? You could be on a chopping block if you don't have real political weight. So you have to understand you got to play this game in all three sectors. Why is it that certain industries can succeed over other industries? It is because when they're getting that federal money, you got to understand it's a catch-22. Because if you're getting federal dollars, that means you can guarantee a certain amount of people can work. And so when you can guarantee that amount of labor force, then that's an incentive for everybody. In theory, everybody wins because you're able to hire more people. This is why before the federal even gives you a federal contract, you have to prove to the federal government that A, you've been in business for a certain length of time, and B, you can guarantee a certain amount of employees in order to receive that federal contract. State is all about who you can actually benefit politically from. So if you're talking about the programs that y'all was talking about, I put in the chat, who's paying for it? See, at the end of the day, when you start talking about state giving away money, I keep explaining to people, that's the middle class giving away those taxes. So where it may benefit an employer, right, or a business owner, it is the middle class that needs to be understanding what may sound good on one side is going to cost you. So they're not giving you anything. This is a program that they want you to eventually pay for. So the question is, does the taxpayers want to pay for this type of a program? This is what I hammer in on a different side of business. Now, if my tax dollar was going to produce jobs, a lot of jobs, it might be worth me giving up a nickel if I know it's going to employ 10 different people. But if this is only going to enrich a minority, then why would I vote on that as a tax base? But again, I'm looking at it from a different perspective. I'm looking at it through the lens of business and politics, not necessarily individual real estate owners or owners of property. Does that make sense? Am I making any sense?
Yeah, I mean, you're just talking about the residual effects of these decisions and how the money flows. You know,
Exactly. It's just like Tim said when he said, "I need the data." For me, I would need the political data behind it, meaning who else is this benefiting? Because if you're saying, well, the only people that can benefit from this program are city and government workers, then you have to show me in the numbers, where is this money coming from?
Oh, I mean, with that said, do you think that it's important for city workers to live inside the city that they work at, or do you think that it makes sense for them to be outside the area? You know,
I think that's a catch-22 because, you know, the catch-22 is what kind of city workers am I talking about? You know, I'm not, you know, I know there's a big thing about, let's say, the police department living within the city confines. I don't know. I still believe more in freedom. So if you're a nurse and you want to live in another state for whatever reason and work in one state, I don't necessarily agree with that. I know that the incentive is to keep outside people from immigrating, but at the same time, my argument is it also builds up your city. So if you're getting outside resources that's coming in with the money to build your city, that's more taxes for the city, for the state, then that's more income for that state. You start isolating and start trying to keep people out of that city or keep people out of that state, and there's no businesses, no incentives to build businesses and develop businesses, you're going to lose in the end.
I mean, does it feel like a welfare program though? I mean,
absolutely. See, there's a difference between welfare in the sense of giving money to a business, giving money to bailout, and giving money to non-production. So what do I mean by that? You can incentivize people to the point where they're not producing. There's no return on investment. Okay. So if you're giving money where there's no real return on investment, then I consider that a social welfare program. If you're giving money where the return on investment could be employees, it could be taxes, it could be more revenue, it can be more security. If you're giving those types of it, then that's an investment. Therefore, there's a return on that investment. So if I'm looking from a tax base, is the city, is the state getting a return on investment in some shape, form, or fashion outside of socialism, outside of just pure raw emotions? Am I incentivizing business? Because you can, you know, if this was a federal program, I'm going to take it up one level. You could be incentivizing real estate owners, and you can be incentivizing those that want to get into real estate to take on this program as a jump start to certain incomes. For example, Section 8 originally was a decent jump start way of dealing with rental property. It started out good, but in the end, it turned out to be bad. Why? Because most of these places is located where? In lower income neighborhoods. So you end up taking in sometimes the wrong tenant. Yeah, it's a roll of the dice. So I think where a program may start off good, where does it really end up? What is the long-term effects? Because Section 8 to me should have always been a short-term program with the incentive of either a short-term program that's going to lead to home ownership, or a short-term program that's going to lead towards being able to fully pay whatever rent prices are. But you cannot keep up with inflation by subsidizing every single economic decision. So I think this in some ways may incentivize in one way, but again, I want to look at the numbers, but I also think it'd be decentivizing. So it's a catch-22.
All right.
To me, I just think if they worried about keeping the people there, why don't they just charge a tourism tax, build up the pot, and then use that pot to incentivize the locals to get housing?
I 100% agree.
Because I've been to places they charge. I'm here in Hawaii. They charge a tourism tax. They charge me a tax. They charge me a tax for buying bottled water.
Really?
Outside of the regular tax and the cost.
How do they know you're a tourist?
It's a tax that is state.
It's tax on everybody. That way they ain't got to choose. Even if you stay here, you still gonna pay it for being a resident of the state.
Yeah, I heard Hawaii is super expensive, man.
Well, it's the same. The Hawaii is just like New York, in the sense of dollar for dollar, but let's be honest. If your state is a good tourist state, you got everybody wanting to come into your state to travel, to go to your beaches. That's good economic business sense. Why? Because where does the incentive for somebody that lives in Hawaii? What's the incentive? The incentive is that there's a lot of services that they're getting that the local people don't necessarily upfront pay for.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? Their hospitals is funded this way, which means when it comes to medical costs, it's cheaper. So there's a catch on both sides. So that's why I say when I'm looking at the program that you're referring to, what is the incentive? Because certain people might be willing to pay more taxes if the benefits outweigh the cost of the tax. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And then if you have like a steady source that's really probably not really impacting the locals, then it's justified. I want to give you guys an example of a place because, I didn't ask Tim and Perry this. Perry, do you look at this as a welfare program?
Yeah, I do. Mm-hmm.
You do?
Yeah. I look at it as a form. I mean, I think like Uncle Stu said, there's obviously different types, but ultimately, yeah, it still is. It's still some form of assistance at the end of the day, But yeah, that's how I see it.
Do you guys think that there should be certain carve-outs for people who are citizens and locals of these states? And do you think that America should have a locals or a citizen first approach whenever it comes to schooling, it comes to opportunities for jobs, opportunities for, I'd say, I don't know if you can do that I don't think you can do that in the housing space, but do you think that they should have subsidies for people who are American citizens in order for them to be able to live in the cities that they are natives of? Or do you think that they should be paying the same rate as everyone else?
I think it depends. I just think it depends on their infrastructure for the city. So for example, in this case, instead of them taking and doing a stipend for the different renters, why don't they take the let's just say the tourism taxes or the stipends, and they provide that for housing for all the different personnel, the nurses, the teachers, the sheriffs, the emergency personnel? Why don't they give them stipends so that when they go get a house, so one, they putting it right back into their community. Here's the good thing. They ain't got to worry about them faking it or whatever. They already have jobs in the government slash not government in the state work sector. Mm-hmm. So they just incentivizing them to get houses in there where they're working at.
This is how the government does everything. backwards.
Right.
They do this with student loans, right? They back them. They back the loans instead of just, if you're going to, I understand you're backing the loans. You want everybody to have a chance, but now on the back end, they're going and cutting. Hey, we're going to cut this much off. You'd have been better off just up front saying, hey, this is what we're going to give you. We're not giving you nothing else ever. And if you can't get a loan for school, then you just can't go. That way, it wasn't like we gave you nothing and people wouldn't have went and got all this money and we wouldn't be in the situation we're in now. So just those types of things. The housing market, right? You want a conventional loan, you follow these types of guidelines. And we saw what happened in 2008. Anytime the government is going to back something, it just actually hurts people. It always hurts them. That's why the price of school keeps going up, because the schools don't have to worry. They can go up to $10,000 a credit hour. As long as the government will give you $1 million to get some worthless degree, schools will keep on going up. Housing market, that's what happened with that. People were like, hey, let's just keep on appraising these things. Two bricks and a piece of shingle over top of it is worth $2.5 million. We'll back it, so it's just another way. I mean, Tim's right. It's why would they not just leave all of them out of it and just incentivize the people by taking that money and directly? And also what happens too with that, right? You're incentivizing the direct people that you're trying to help.
Right.
Not trying to do it through some other thing where people will try to take advantage. We know people are going to try to cut the system. Look at the PPP loans, right? So it's just like, just directly do it to help those people. Don't worry about the other stuff or none of that. But it's crazy, man. I don't know the method to the madness, to be honest. It's hard to figure out.
Yeah. Based on what you said, I thought about the colleges too, because what do? We say people that live in the state can go to college at one price. People who live out of state pay a whole separate price.
Right.
So that's the incentive there. You went huge when you talking about integration as far as international. That to me, that's a whole separate conversation. But if you're talking about within the states, I think for me, where it's coming down to is, do people really understand business infrastructure? And I think if people had a better understanding of, infrastructure as far as within the city and within the state and what they really want their government to be and to do, I think we can ease up on a lot of these programs, because again, I agree with Perry. If I know, I'm able to get 20 grand a year guaranteed, and I can go up and up and up and up because the government is going to guarantee the money, then there's no incentive for me to have competition from a local business school perspective, because the government is going to give me all this money. So yeah, I think there is some things that we need to argue about and to argue against, as far as what the government can pay and not pay.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I hear you guys' position, man. I hear you guys. But
well, see, for me, you got to also remember, I'm looking at it probably through a different lens than, let's say, how you would look at it. See, because okay, let me look at it. Let me explain it this way. For you, is this going to make me money? And I hate to say it this way, and I don't want people to take this offensively. Is it going to make me money in the short term, midterm, and long term? Right now, your mind should not be caring about anybody else. Am I going to make money? So you're going to be looking at it differently than, let's say, somebody like, let's say my position is, okay, from a government basis, from a political basis, does this make political, governmental sense versus a business sense? When I'm looking at government, I'm looking at taxes. That's the way government makes money. You understand what I'm saying? So is this going to be beneficial on a tax basis? This is why there's incentives for certain companies to come into certain cities, and people say, well, they're not paying certain taxes. No, because that company can come in and maybe not pay a corporate tax or a state corporate tax, but that company is also coming in and guaranteeing 1,000 jobs, which is going to do what? Give me back the very taxes that I'm losing.
Yeah.
You understand? But I'm looking at it from a government business lens versus a personal business, you know what I'm saying, program.
All right. So I've heard what you said. I understand you guys' position. No welfare, no handouts, no subsidies. I'm going to give you guys an example of a place I discovered this year. I will admit I discovered it this year. I knew about it when I was younger. I'd heard about it. There's a place called Monaco, right? Monaco is the name of the country. It's in the south of France, right? It's a small country. It's not that big. This place is really interesting, right? And I came across someone who had lived there, and they were ranting and raving about Monaco. And I've recently become interested in Formula One racing. And I remember one of the races that they have was in Monaco. It's through the streets of Monaco, right? And I'm saying, what is the big deal about this place, right? So this place is interesting, right? Are you familiar with Monaco, Tim? Tim, have you ever heard of Monaco or the tax benefits of living in Monaco?
I heard of Monaco, but I'm not familiar with Monaco.
What about you, Perry?
Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with it. Knew there was a ton of wealth there. Ton of wealth.
And what about you, Uncle Stu? Have you ever heard of Monaco?
Yeah, I've heard of it. I don't know the policies and politics of it, but yeah, I have heard of it.
So imagine, right? This is a place, it's almost like a utopia. And I'd have to show you documentaries or videos, and I don't want to get a copyright strike. But I watched some documentaries that showed this place, and it's like an oasis for like billionaires and millionaires, right? And it says this article says 6 benefits of living in Monaco, right? 0 tax, the best security and privacy in the world, excellent healthcare, right? That's what this guy's article. This is from 2021, right? Right? Situated in the coast of south of France, it's a small nation, right? 32% of the population are millionaires, equating to 1 in 3 people being millionaires, right? It has the second highest GDP per capita at 165,420, and has a draw for business people and celebrities for decades, ever since I think it said like 1965, right? Now, what's interesting was there was when I heard this story way back in the 1950s, there was an American actress that actually moved to Monaco to become the princess, to become the queen over there. And she was involved in building the public image of Monaco and giving it its international draw. So Monaco is what it is because of an American woman being there and giving it the appeal from a global standpoint, right? And you can watch documentaries and videos, and you can see the whole story, right? So they said that the housing prices in Monaco, the most expensive in the world, right? Monaco has an average square foot price of $4,500, right? Beating Hong Kong and New York, right? It says a small 1-bedroom apartment is likely to set you back $1.6 million, right? And they said typically a penthouse is $55 million, right? And so for me, I was like, why in the world are the people staying in this place, right? And then I discovered why, right? They said it's a good investment place because this one house right here rose 17% from 2017, right? Monaco is almost the world's best expensive street, has almost the world's most expensive street, right? Avenue Princess Prince at Grace, right, with an average square foot of $17,000 per square foot. I don't know. Have you guys ever heard of numbers like this before?
That's crazy.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
but I could tell you probably, and this is more hypothetical because, you know, like you, I probably have to take a little bit of deeper dive, but that's because they price the criminals out the market. You understand? Like that is they price a certain social class out of the market, and once you can price them out of the market, that's exactly what you're going to receive. So what do I mean? If you go into your if you go, let's say, certain areas right here in America where there is more wealth, you're 9 times out of 10 going to have a low crime area versus, you know, something being less economically affordable. And because that's almost every state has its wealthy section. Now, if you don't have a high crime, then guess what? You have low police department, which means you have less things to pay for. You don't have to subsidize a whole lot of programs.
So check this out, guys. Right. So I'm watching. Very, very true. Very true. And this is to that exact same point as you were just mentioning, Uncle Stu. Right. It says security. Right. So these guys, they're right next to France. Right. People come from France in order for them to work in Monaco. Right. Because the higher paying jobs are in Monaco. So whenever someone from France comes in, they say, "Hey, what are you here to do?" Right. That's the first thing they ask you when you come through the border. And you'll say, "I'm here to work," or something like that. They said, "Okay, all right, you can go," right? But then if you just come in for leisurely purposes, they said, "What are you here to do? Where are you going? What business do you have here?" And everything's recorded. They have a very advanced security system, and they have the right to search anyone for any reasons. And because of that, it deters a lot of the crime, like Uncle Stu was saying. A lot of the crime is deterred there because everyone that comes into that country has to be seen at the border. They'll go on record. They have a prison there. The prison serves lobster. They serve steaks. They serve like gourmet quality food. It's really wild. The prison has a view over the ocean. I mean, it's hardly a prison. It's almost like a resort of sort, man.
That's crazy.
They it was wild. When I saw that, I saw them making lobster and having like steak for the prisoners. I said, man, you know what? That's what happens when you have billionaires and millionaires. And so, all right, so that's 2, right? The protection for the citizens, right? Monaco, like I just stated before, right? They said they have an influx of foreign residents over the last decades. However, Prince Albert, he's the one. He says he makes sure that the citizens are properly looked after and protected, right? He says, although known for its casino, Monaco has banned its citizens from gambling. Look at that. Look at that. Monaco, although it's known for its casinos, it bans its citizens from gambling. This is because, unlike popular belief, not every citizen of Monaco is as rich as the guests who flock there from abroad, right? Therefore, they want to protect them and their finances. Look at that, man. Protect them and their finances. Citizens are banned from ever entering the country's casinos. Man, I mean, can you imagine that? Like,
well, the thing is, I can. And again, you'll see this battle. I saw this battle in North Carolina, you know, when they tried to keep casinos out, when they even tried to fight against Lotto, you know. So you've seen these battles, and I think this is a great example of exactly what it is. Why do they have Lottos? It's another way of free taxes.
So check this out. Yeah, very true. Very true. Right? It says, due to the huge house prices, the prince subsidizes up to 75% for his citizens. allowing them to remain in the country without having financial worries. 75%. So what was that number earlier? 17,000 per square foot. So where we at? Where we at? Up here, what was that? $1.6 million. So 75% subsidy, 1.6 million. That's how livable that they make it for their citizens, right? And it says citizens are given priority for jobs and are paid more than they would be if they were from abroad. Both of these contribute to Monaco's having 0% poverty rate and not a single person living below the poverty line. So when I saw this early this year, man, I was shocked. I said, man, like, what is this place? This is wild. And you see the prince, he's driving around, he's riding around in a Lexus, you know, and sometimes he's driving himself, you know. Well, actually, no, he wasn't driving, but he was being driven in a Lexus like LS 300 or LS 400. Maybe might have been LS 600, but it wasn't like an absorbently expensive vehicle. And they just seemed to have like practical mindset whenever it came to like doing things, man. I just found it to be really interesting, right? And this is where most of the draw is at right here. For a lot of the foreigners, right? This is where the billionaires and millionaires actually are drawn to this place, right? They say no tax, right? As long as you live in the country for 6 months and 1 day for every year, you can become a resident, meaning you will benefit from the following: 0 income tax, 0 capital gains tax, 0 property tax, 0 corporate tax, 0 dividend tax. Even if the majority of your money is earned abroad, so long as you live as a resident of Monaco, you don't have to pay a single dime of it.
Wow. It's pretty crazy.
I don't know, man. What do you think, Tim?
That's unheard of.
Yeah, I think there's something. I don't know who wrote that article.
No, man. I heard the same thing. I'm telling you, man, you got to check it out. It is a weird place, man. It is very strange. I mean, maybe he's going to get to it about the citizenship.
I think the key to me, what I see is because they keep everything in house. They have control over the outcome.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just like your home. If you keep everything in house, you have control of the outcome. So in their case, they're the actual home and the government all is one.
Right. And when I say there got to be a deep dive, citizens may not be paying, but they got to be getting revenue from somewhere.
Well,
You understand? So it's like saying if you live in Hampton, but you able to get your tax money from everybody around the city of Hampton, then that's going to create a lower tax base if no taxes, if they're able to get their money from everybody else outside of their citizens. So it goes back to the argument of what do you want your government to be and how are you able to achieve that money? So I can see it, but I don't see the probability of it happening here in America.
I think there's something to learn, though, man. It's really interesting, right? So they say it's renowned for healthcare and has a plethora of public and private hospitals. And I think the name of the name of this is the lady I was telling you guys about right here. This is the American actress that moved over there, right here, Grace Kelly. I don't know.
Oh, okay. I know. Yeah, I know that is.
I know that is.
So Grace Kelly became the queen, and she moved over there and married the former, of course, the former king. But yeah, so she's the current president's mother, and so she came there, helped improve their public image, and helped for them to become like a worldwide destination. And they created these programs to attract foreign individuals there, right?
Let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Who controls the public relations?
The prince.
Guess what? There's information you don't have.
Which one? In reference to what's happening here?
Yeah, the reason I say that, because, and I'm not calling them a liar technically, but just hear me out. If there's certain information, is just like communism. If I'm controlling the public relations, then I'm controlling the information that's going out. So if I sit there and blow up my city, my town, my state, my business, I'm only going to give you the information I want you to have, because I want you to see that I'm running a successful business where it's not like you got freedom of the press that Mike can go in there and see things that we're not able to see.
Oh, no. Oh, no. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that he's invested in like inviting people to his castle, having events there, you know. So there's a public relations component to it, but I'm not saying that the information only comes through him. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. That's what I was asking. Okay.
I'm saying that he's participating in the image, you know.
Gotcha.
And hosting people and bringing people to the nation. It's a really strange place, man. I'm not gonna lie, but right. Yeah, there's no limitations on press and what can happen. And it's a really weird place, man. I'm not gonna lie. I was really shocked when I discovered it. And they're saying that Monaco is home to world famous international school and university and some of the best public schools for kids. The international schools follow the baccalaureate syllabus in English, whereas most public schools are taught in French there, right? Education is one of the biggest benefits for Monegasque families and is one of the biggest draws for families from abroad. You know, like they hold on to like them being citizens. It's almost like a badge of honor, man. It's really an interesting thing because it's like people walk around and they have like not even a chip on their shoulders, but they have like a lot of pride for them to be able to say that they're Monegasque. That's what they call the citizens, Monegasque.
I'm going to tell you, that is really what you got to push in any community. I mean, I feel you all the way. This is why I'm kind of against a lot of incentives. And unfortunately, a lot of people like free stuff. Mm-hmm. And if you was able to push now for a country like America, there's always going to be a certain number of population that can't own a business or for whatever reason can't work. Yeah, I can say, yeah, we could subsidize those people, but we should be incentivizing people to the point where they can live close to what you're displaying in your article. You know, when you make a certain level of income, you know, there's a certain peace you have. There's a certain happiness you have. There's no incentive for me to go and say, well, I'm going to go and rob Perry because I'm good. I got everything I want and need. And I just don't think we push that enough to really get people to see what you can become as an individual, as a family, and as a city and as a group. We're fighting for the government to do it. And if you're fighting the government to do it, somebody's going to be a winner and somebody's going to be a loser. And 9 times out of 10, it's the middle class that's going to lose. And I can't seem to pound that into people's heads. We pay for this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Like I know what you're saying, Uncle Stu. I'm just saying that this place, I really implore everyone. I really implore everyone to take a look at this weird place, man. To me, it made no sense, and I was kind of just in awe when I really saw them. And this was early this year, and like I said, the person that I knew went to school here and went to school here, and then they were just talking about how great this place is, and there's just a lot of draw from like an international standpoint, and I was shocked. So the guy in the article didn't really mention it, but let me tell you guys about the citizenship, right? So citizenship is not given away at this place, right? So let me tell you guys. Let me say a second. All right. So in order for you to be a citizen of this place, you actually have to live there for at least 10 years in order for them to consider you for citizenship, right? So, and the only way you can become a citizen is if the prince himself actually approves you to become a citizen. Otherwise you're not allowed, otherwise you will not become a citizen. And what's become clear is that he does not have a rhyme or reason why he chooses people to become citizens. Essentially, you have a profile that you hand over to him, and he looks through it, and he'll look at a number of different metrics, and he does not divulge the things that he uses in order for him to decide who should and who should not. And then he takes it, he says, hey, okay, this person has been accepted. This person has not been accepted. And he does not share exactly how he goes about making the decision of who to choose and who not to choose. But
let me ask you something real quick.
The fact that, give me 2 seconds.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The fact that you are a billionaire is not an incentive for him to actually decide and choose you to be a citizen. He treats billionaires the same exact way that the middle class are being treated, the same exact way that anyone else is being treated. But go ahead.
Yeah, my question is, did you say earlier that the citizens don't pay taxes? So that means non-citizens do pay taxes. Is that my understanding? I'm just trying to get that part.
Yeah, I mean, everyone is working in order for them to be able to get the opportunity to be a citizen, you know, to have an opportunity to be considered for permanent citizenship because of the upside potential of not having to pay those taxes. And like I said, they're living in the likes of like the wealthiest of people in the world, you know, and they have an opportunity to live without having to worry about being robbed, being mugged, having to worry about anything, man. I mean, it's literally like an oasis because, like I said, no vagrants are coming to be in this place because they won't even be let through the border, you know? So the mere fact that they check everyone out that comes through the border and said, hey, what are you doing here? I saw a video where they had an issue at a convenience store. The police were dispatched to the convenience store. They arrested the person at the convenience store, took them to prison, interrogated them, and then they were moving them off to the prison. Let me see if I can show you guys this prison. Let me see if they show this prison food. I want y'all to see this thing. This is crazy. When I saw that, I was like, hold on, man.
Uncle Stu, I'm thinking that they make a lot of their influx of cash flow from their casinos.
That's what I'm thinking too.
Because what he said is none of their citizens is allowed to go to the casinos, but all the tourists go there and spend up a ton of money.
Exactly. Yeah, tourism and banking. Yeah. You guys heard of Monte Carlo?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure Monte Carlo is in Monaco.
It's in Monaco. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And not only that, I think their casinos and the fact that for the first 10 years, you know, you're paying taxes. You like if I did the breakdown, like SimSiya is saying, I can almost see similar. I don't know how you can really implement. I can almost see similar to doing that state to state. Like if you go to a particular state, you know, you might be paying one form of tax until for a certain length of time. And then once you truly become a resident, paying a separate tax. It's a little tricky, but I see it. I see it. Again, goes back to business incentives. What is that city and state bringing in order to develop economic resources?
Nah, I mean you're right. That's what they do. Most of what they do is hosting people at the casino. That's their main source of revenue. And
well, see, you know, jokingly speaking, you know that's where Kareem hangs out.
Look, you saw what she said. She said the prison is like a resort.
Yeah.
Look at that, man. Look at that. I mean, that's wild. Look at that architecture right there on the prison, man. I mean, it looks like a castle by itself. It looks like a castle.
About to go fishing at the prison.
Yeah.
Catch me some bluegill bass.
Man, I'm telling you,
like
man.
that sounds like a place where look like all of us need to just go on and get the passport and go over there and take pictures.
Man, listen. It says
I think our channels would blow up.
look at this prison food right here, man. I mean, do you think that people would be encouraged to be going to prison if they're eating like this, man? I mean, it's wild, man.
I mean, that does look wild. I'm wondering what type of crime, I hate to say this, but what type of crimes are we really looking at?
I mean, they still have the same kind of crime. It's just that people don't get away with stuff. Look at that. Here it goes right here. He says the reasons for inmates arriving at this place is between 30% theft to financial crime. 30% theft. 30% between 30% to financial crimes and 20%. All right. And it's even said that a person was found guilty of kicking a cat in public and ended up there for a month. This is the view from a cell right here. Imagine that right there. Right. So you have a view like that from a cell. And it's really just an interesting place. I implore people to take a look at this. And that you see stuff like this, and for me, when I saw the videos, I saw it was like an oasis for like rich people, man. And like you would just see like all the nicest cars, all the expensive cars. I don't know about nice, but all the expensive cars, right? People are just driving around, they're in peace. If someone has like a diamond necklace, they can wear it in the street without having to worry about someone stealing it from them. And it's just really an interesting place, I don't want to belabor the point, man, but it's an interesting place. One thing that I will say right here, Perry and Tim, and even Uncle Stu. So let's say, for instance, right? Let's say you buy a condo here, right? Let's say you buy a condo here at this place. Can you guys see my pointer?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? You buy this condo here for $2 million, right? The prince will build another condo directly in front of your property, because like the draw here is to have a view of the ocean right here, right? But they could build a condo that's taller than yours directly in front of the one that you have. So the view that you had, you no longer have, but then the value of the property still continues to climb. So it ends up being like a constant chase of like one building one up in the other one, right? And you know what they did in exactly, right? So you see what Mr. Awesome said. And he says the prince is petty as fuck, right? Listen, man, listen. I mean, it's just an understood thing. So you know what they did in Dubai, where they were spraying the sand and they were building the land, extending the land on the shoreline. That's exactly what they were doing here with the most recent project. And so it's just really interesting seeing the stuff that happened here. And if you follow, like I said, Formula One racing, I was following the Netflix show, and I started to see parallels that were drawn between that show, and then I was seeing the guy who owns the Mercedes-Benz company, the racing company. He has an apartment here in Monaco. And so I said, man, like there's got to be like a legitimate reason for people to live here, man. He said cat and mouse game, right? So, just seeing that kind of stuff, man, I was just really shocked. And I was like, man, there's something that's happening here that it has worldwide appeal that maybe I'm just not privy to. And I remember when I was younger hearing about Monaco and seeing like, I think I remember like a dance competition that used to happen in Monaco way back in the 90s or maybe the early 2000s. But I just thought that was really interesting, right? Right. So that's what I wanted to tell you all in reference to that. So what I want to cover is the last topic right here, because we're talking about subsidies and welfare programs and and handouts and all this stuff right here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talk about good old Uncle Joe right here, right? So we had Uncle Joe. So, as you all already know, the student loan forgiveness program was announced last week. And man, I wish I could have spoken on it last week. Unfortunately, I couldn't do it. But yeah, so, what do you all think about this? Now I remember what Perry said, not Perry. I remember what Tim said, right? He says, if I didn't help you spend the money, I can't help you pay it back, right? So, Tim, what do you think about it, man? What do you think? Since now he's announced $10,000 if you make less than $125,000, right? $10,000 loan forgiveness if you make less than $125,000, or no more than $250,000 for a household, right? Or you can get an additional 10 if you had Pell Grants, if you are a Pell Grant recipient. What do you all think about this? Do you think that people are getting a head start by getting a $10,000 loan forgiveness? We can't hear you.
I think you know my answer, but
hold on, Tim. We can't hear you, Tim.
Oh.
We'll come back to you, Tim. We'll come back to you.
Oh, can you hear me?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. We can hear you now.
So first thing, and I know some people is going to not like my response, but I don't agree with the relief program, me personally. Here's the reason. I got my reasons why. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on my reasons why, but I will say this. I do get it. It do help some people out. But when you look at just the vast numbers and the populace as a whole, it's going to do more damage than good, like Uncle Stu already shared. It's going to cause inflation to go up on the back end, but also it's going to cause colleges now to go up on tuition again, and they're going to make up for it, and it's going to be justified. It's just like the housing market now with rents. When they did all this, you don't have to pay your rent, you don't have to pay your mortgage. Well, look at the result of that now. Everybody is paying for it. So it doesn't make sense. And I think, for me, I think people are so short-lived and selfish, in my opinion, because if they got kids, what is that going to do for your kids? It's just going to cause college to be more for them. So either you're going to have to pay more money to send them, or they're going to have to borrow more money to go. That's it. So you can't be, when you got to think about projects and programs, you really got to I always believe is you got to think through the process, but think about if I say yes now, how is this going to affect me 3 years from now, 5 years from now? If you do that for a lot of your decisions, you ain't going to have a lot of problems, because you're going to realize real quick, everything evolves and fall back on who? Me. That's all I say.
Would you say, Perry? You agree with what Tim's saying?
I think this one sole decision will fix America.
Stop the cap.
I'm just playing. No.
Stop the cap.
No, here's the deal.
I like that.
I got to get that one, sis. I got to get that.
No, so here's the deal. I think, first of all, regardless of what party, he kept somewhat of what he said he would do, right? So I think that maybe he should get a little slice of cake for that. Any politician that attempts to keep any piece of what they promise to people, regardless of what it is, should at least be acknowledged somewhat. But I feel twofold about this. The reason why is this going to fix anything? No, I don't believe it will. Now, I did do some digging, and I was pleasantly surprised. Apparently, I saw some statistics that said that when they canceled the student loan debt, not canceled it, but when they put it on hold for a while, that a lot of Americans were able to, purchase some homes and save some money. I don't know how good those statistics are, but the main reason I feel twofold about this is this. I do not believe it's fixing a problem. But where I do have a slight issue with it is the government has caused this problem. So because they've caused this problem, I think the biggest thing that people do have to think about is what does not fixing this problem in one way or another cost us down the road? And it is going to cost us. So my thing is more so the argument of who's complaining. See, Tim can afford to complain. You know, I can afford to complain about it, right? But when I do see people that are, when I do see people complaining about it, and I get it, you know, people that say, well, I didn't go to school, this and that, but people that aren't making that much money and are complaining about it, what they have to realize is this is such a gaping problem. It is going to cost everyone. Not doing anything is going to cost everyone as well. It's going to cost them because all these people cannot buy homes. They cannot contribute to the economy. The problem is, and I'm not saying it's a problem, but think about it. The same way the government did this, right? You can run up as much credit card debt as you want, and you can file bankruptcy. You can get a student loan. You can get a student loan, education. You can't file bankruptcy. So they've treated this furthermore different than other stuff to kind of hold people in a position, right? So my thing is I think we're volleying back and forth between just a massive problem that I don't know how you fix it, but I do know the reason why I'm not for it, I don't have an issue with it is because if they are going to perk up Lehman Brothers and bail everyone else out, I'm not going to complain about them giving away $10,000 to people in a problem they caused. That's the way I look at it. So like I said, I'm not for it because I believe if you take out debt, you should pay it back. But once again, we have the government who has caused this problem again. So it's just one of those, housing market, they did bailouts and stuff like that. So I always have mixed feelings. I don't support any handout that doesn't have a actual hardcore solution, an actual solution to fix the problem long term. But I always have to look at it from a side of how much is this costing us, down the road. So I do have mixed emotions about it, but I can't say that I'm sit here and I say that I'm for it. But is $10,000 going to fix anything? No. And let's say they paid off everything. Would that fix anything? Yeah, it would fix. We got to face it. It would fix some things. And I'm talking in terms, I'm not talking about the fact that it still has to be paid back. I'm just talking in terms of would a good percentage of those people who have been suffocated in debt learn from it? Yeah, I think 25% probably would. But I think a good majority of them just go and get credit card debt and run that back up because they haven't learned anything from it. So I hate to be all over the place, but I think it's a hard issue. And I think a lot of people that say that maybe do complain about it don't understand it's still costing them anyway. It's going to cost us regardless, so.
What do you think, Tim? Did you want to say something in addition to that? Or
I was just going to ask Perry. So Perry, you going to be okay with paying more taxes later because of this?
No, no, absolutely not. That's why I say I'm not. That's why I say I'm not for it. But also, I guess I'm thinking, what implications are there as we continue to be in a place where, more and more people, I guess, basically can't buy homes or can't contribute to the, to the overall piece of society because they have, $150,000 in, in student loans or whatever. But then again, they may just not pay them. But if they don't pay them, they can't get credit to go spend money in another fashion. So yeah, I don't think there's a real fix to it.
Okay, all right, Uncle Stu, what's your take on it, man? Give us your opinion. Do you have a position?
I do. $10,000 isn't going to fix anything. I believe that's like giving somebody $1 that's still in $1,000 debt. So no, that's not going to fix anything. I think corrective course, if we had to talk about corrective course, I believe there are certain people in certain industries that should definitely have student loans, I would say, wiped out for the incentive. Because I always say, what is the incentive and the return on the investment? So let me give an example. When I look at teachers, what is the return on investment? Them educating children. And when we talk about education, then you can go into, after a certain length of time, let's remove student loan debt, or for every year or 2 years that they are out there, teaching, then that can be removed. That's an investment. I think when you start telling teachers, well, you got to work in the school system 10 years before we remove it, but then the catch is you got to constantly pay X, Y, and Z. I think we need the higher quality of teachers definitely in the school system. That will be one example. People who are definitely going to be in or is doing things that is recontributing back to society as a form of paying off debt. And then again, I'm like, Perry, you can't claim it, as a bankruptcy. So I don't want to necessarily pay for everybody's economic ills and economic woes. Is there a certain sector? Yeah, I'll say a certain sector. Absolutely. I can back that. But just everybody? No. I mean, I don't want to pay for somebody, and I know we use this as an ad hominem. I don't want to pay for somebody that went to school to study basket weaving. That's not I'm not gonna get nothing for a basket weaver, but if you giving me somebody that went to college and let's say joined the military, or you went to college to become an educator, or I agree with Mr. Awesome, you went to college to study math or to study science, something that's going to add, that's an investment. So I, as a taxpaying citizen, wouldn't have a problem investing in someone that I know we're going to get 2-3 times that money back. But like I said, you went to school and you just got, social worker degree, or you went and just got, a degree that's not really going to benefit the collective whole. I don't see it. But I've never been into to give. I believe there are certain loans that we should still have on the books, but again, you sign that promissory note to say that you're going to pay it back. There are other people that can't pay it back. Somebody that's disabled, they can't pay back that loan. I think when it comes to people that's been in the military, not to say that they're going to run up a debt, but they've already did their contribution. They was willing to give up their life so that everybody else can have their freedom. But those are just little simple off the cuff things. Do I feel that this 10 grand is going to fix anything? No, it's just trying to guarantee him a win for political voting points.
Hey, something else I just want to mention real quick too. What is crazy is at this point, just so people do know, I'm sure everybody up here knows, but in college, the credit hours are all the same, right? They're the same. It doesn't matter what it is.
Yep.
So when we talk about, basket weaving, the point we're all making is you get these loans, right? So you get these loans, take $100,000 out in something that's going to make you $35,000. So you can't pay it back. But because of the government, I'll be honest with you, I don't know I'm speaking from out of state. And if you don't have some form of like your parents who have paid there's no degree, none anymore that you can go out of state and it'll pay for it. I don't care what you do. I don't care if you can do engineering. You can do anything. You can go on. Here's the thing. Engineering would be the smartest one based on the return. I believe that from a simply bachelor's degree, right?
Mm-hmm.
That won't pay for it. It's so the cost has went up so much.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you become an engineer and you can hold it out a certain amount of years, right? You could probably find a way, and you make the right investments. So you got to be on your game mentally anyway now. So what I would like to see is, I think we got to get to a point where we not only look at it from after it's happened. I think we really got to start making the push to tell these politicians that they need, and even if it's a 10-year period, and I know it affects people, that they're no longer going to give these loans out. Treat it like any other loan. You gotta have credit. You got to figure it out. But that's the problem. No one. I don't know anybody. I literally don't know anybody. I've never hear people complain about the fact you can get the loans in the first place because they want everybody to be able to go to college. When you have a system where everybody can do everything, this is what you get. That's why there's nothing to separate the weak from the strong. And this
no barrier to entry.
Yeah, that's exactly what you get.
Right.
That's why when you look at YouTube, right? There's good channels.
Barrier to entry.
There's bad channels. There's crap. There's great. There's all this. But that's what you get, that low barrier to entry. And I think at some point we got to at least set the standard and say, if nothing else, right, at least, hey, if you can't get these level of grades in high school, you don't get it. You have to go to a community college for 2 years and get this level of grades, or we're not even going to talk to you. So we can at least weed out the people who are not even proven they can even finish college. Because at least if you can finish, your only chance of having a shot, you have to graduate. If you don't graduate and you've done 2 years, you are straight screwed.
I would tend to disagree, but I'm gonna disagree from this point of view. We all have to admit we got a problem K through 12. We got a serious problem. So we would definitely be throwing away a whole chunk of America, as well as a whole chunk of another societal issue. What I would say in that is that all of us been to college. And if we all really understand college, how many of us is using half of what we learned in college? Just half, which means we got classes we are paying for that makes absolutely no sense towards what we want to do in life. Math, excellent. English, excellent. Certain writing and research, excellent. But then some of our liberal arts classes makes no sense.
Yeah.
We're not going, I don't know. I mean, me being political science and whatnot, there was a lot of classes that was good. Yeah. Philosophy, good for political science. Philosophy for somebody that wants to be a nurse, I don't see it. You understand what I'm saying? Like we're having people take 2 years of all these liberal arts classes that they're not going to use. So that's a waste of time and money. And then there's certain degrees that we shouldn't even be honoring anymore because we don't live in those societies where, again, what is the return on investment?
Well, that's what Perry was saying there, right? Go ahead, Tim.
Let me jump in real quick. But I agree with both you and Perry, but I also had stuff to add too. First thing, I still think that when we talk about college, I think we got to go back to the root of it. I don't think the curriculum is the issue per se. I think now we got to really identify the equipping the individual, the student, and the parents need to take the time to get an understanding so they can help direct and guide the degree. Now, we always say that a person may not know, or they was into predatory loans and this and that. But I'm at the stance now in this era in 2022 that ain't gonna fly no more.
I gotta disagree with you.
We have too much information in front of us, and the same people that complain about predatory loans, they can tell me about Cardi B, they can tell me about what Lil Wayne is doing, they can tell me about Drake, but we won't take the time to go research scholarships. Also, when it comes to the school system, I think that we got it now because for me, I'm trying to get away from this. We never draw a line in the sand because we keep moving the line for this exception. And when we do that, we never set a standard. And this is how we got to where we're at now. Now, I get it. If you was to go back to my mom and my dad, when they was going, they didn't have all the resources, all of those things. But now I think everybody has a responsibility, the child and the parent. The child cannot just put it all on the parents, and the parents can't put it all on the child. It needs to work together. But also, we got to now take the time to start researching and understanding these things. If a child today can pull out their phone, they know how to get on YouTube, they know how to do all these other things, I would question that same child if they want to go to school, what do they want to go for, and can they give me some information on the major they're choosing? Because when do we start taking personal ownership? Now, when it comes to the curriculum, I do think that they need to destroy half of the curriculums and rebuild them from the ground up because most of them are useless now today. A vast majority of the curriculums are useless. Now, when I say that, when we talk about how some of the classes may not be beneficial, be a waste, I agree and disagree. Because I think most of the curriculums that give you a broad skill set, it allows you to be diverse across the board, to have some level of understanding or openness across the board. In the good degrees, it don't even really matter. It's for the degrees like basket weaving, you feel like you're wasting more time when you really think about it. Because for all the STEM degrees, computer science, in medical field, people don't necessarily complain about that because the income potential is so much greater than the curriculum itself.
Mm-hmm.
So I think those are the type of things we really got to think about. Now, I do know that I do understand that our situations where, like Uncle Stu talked about, a person get disabled, they can't pay the student loan, that type of thing. But that's not the rule. That's the exception. Right. And I think this is the challenge where we sometimes still mix our responsibility to the exception.
Mm-hmm.
And we never did when we do that so much that we never set a rule. See, because for everybody in today's time, I'm not talking about before, we're not even talking about 2021. Everybody today, there's no way they cannot say that they didn't get time or they don't understand or they don't know. It's just, what are you focused on? Is your priorities in the right place? If you want to go to school, are you doing the things that's conducive to going to school, going to college? Are you getting the grades like Perry talked about? Are you doing those type things? And if you are, then you're a good candidate. Now, the next thing is, are you applying for the free money that goes unused every single year? It's free college money, grants and everything that go unused because people are lazy and don't want to write the papers. They don't want to go to do the research. We just got so, as a community, I think so many people are just so lazy now. If it's not in front of them, I'm not going to do no research. Then when everything don't work out, I'm going to complain and not take no level of responsibility. But also, and I say this to wrap up, but also we got a lot of parents that's selfish. They're so interested in sending their kids to the Ivy League schools, getting caught up on the name so they can talk and brag about it at the cookouts, at the family cookouts, at the family parties, versus taking the time to be more focused on let me help guide this child into a direction that's going to get them the best outcome. And I just think when we do those things, I think we could have a lot better results.
Let me just say real quick. Here's why I do slightly disagree with you, Tim. The problem I think is, and I do think some of it's laziness, but the biggest issue I have is we got to remember, because we always say this, right? Look at all the information we have at our fingertips. But the problem is the age of someone, let's just say, 0 to 18, traditionally, you're not in a position where those things even matter. And I'm convinced until you have to pay bills yourself, because see, we don't teach it either. It'd be one thing if we taught it in school, but to me, until you're in a position where you really know what manhood or womanhood's about, and you have to pay bills and have a concept of like, man, I've only got this much money, but I got this much bills. I think, or let's just say at 16, you're able to get your first job, like your first official job, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's only a 2-year period between that. You know, you get your little check. There's only a 2-year period between that and you know, between people being caught up in sports, all this other crap. So I don't even think people have the capacity, although the information's there, they haven't even had the pressure really put on them yet, most of the time, to where they're looking at it. And I think it creeps up. And we were so ritualistic about school. It's so American, you know, to go to school, that there was a lot of pressures back in the day. I think some of that pressure has went away, but I just don't think that someone up to the age of 18 really has a concept of, hey, do you understand? And that's the conversation that needs to be had. And it needs to be very straight up. The little fast for information and crap they give you, it ain't teaching nobody nothing. Hey, here's the deal. Here's how this works. You're going to get this degree, you know, a list. Here's what you're going to make on average. Here's what it costs on average to live in said city. Here's, if you take out $50,000, you're going to owe $800 a month, $900 a month. Simple math. We at least got to break it down to simple math in a way where they fully understand it. Because I'm not really convinced that the average person out here knows that. And the reason why is I'm on YouTube all the time with people in their 40s and 50s that don't even understand basic interest rates and investing and things like that. So there's no way I could think an 18-year-old really understands until it's so deep and they're screwed. Because I'll tell you this right now. I went back to school at 24 years old. I was talking to my mom about it this morning. Now, I somewhat understood. I understood enough to where I was like, you know what? I'm going out of state, but I'm going to go to the community college. I'm going to go to the community college. But I did not fully know verbatim. I'd be lying if I said I did. I did not 100% know every single. And see, what I also didn't, I guess, realize was I was transitioning from making good money to having to go back and not making any money. So I hadn't made such a little amount in several years because I was in sales. That's what really caught me. I was like, damn, man, I'm working here at Ruby Tuesdays making nothing. I'm not going to be able to float it like I thought I would. So I'm going to have some loans. So, and I'm pretty good with money. Me at that point in time, my financial I was basically just like, I didn't spend a lot, right? So I just think there has to be, what I'm saying is there has to be more tools there along the way, at least. Not just this pop up, hey, sign this paperwork, boom, and then, and then it goes off. And the bigger thing is this can be solved though, even if not. See, it's like that wanting to have it both ways. Nobody wants to cut it. Everyone should have the opportunity. It's very simple. If you want to get the opportunity to get student loans in the current fashion you have it, you get it as a junior and a senior. You have to have 60 credit hours. You will not get it from the federal government before then. States, you all deal with community college. Anybody can go to community college anywhere for free. I mean, basically every state. In Virginia, you could go to community college for free. It basically didn't cost you nothing. You got to put half of that on the states and the federal can kick in. And also what happens is the federal doesn't even deal with you until you're already halfway done with it. So your chance to completion is extremely higher. That's one reason why when I went to college, when I was talking to the counselor at Auburn, he's like, look, man, going through the community college, we'll take someone who has a 2.2 over someone out of high school that had a 4.0. Why? Because you've already went through 2 years of it. They did good in high school, but we can trust you because you're halfway through college already. With a lower GPA, we can trust you more to finish than we can trust them. So we weave them in here because we know if you've already went through 2 years and got those basic classes, you're going to come over here and you're in your major, the stuff you're interested in, the likelihood of success is way higher. So that's why I'm saying There's ways to do it. I just, for the love of God, can't understand why the government continues to want to do this. Like, you can't get, like, the bank will not give you a car. The very same bank that will not give a 25-year-old with terrible credit a car for $6,000 will give an 18-year-old whatever the hell they want. I do not understand that. And there's no one that can say that makes sense.
It's unforgivable, though. That's why they do it.
And that's the thing, too. That's what gets me, too, is, you're locked into it, too. It's to me, it's leading people to slaughter.
Right.
Because you can't give 18-year-olds that type of, that type of money.
But let me say this. Let me say this, Perry. One thing I'm going to say is, life has changed so rapidly. When I got out of school, going to college was free.
Right.
Okay. By the time 10, 15 years, there is no way, no matter how great I plan a lot of stuff, that I was prepared economically or socially for my daughter to go to college. I was dealing with life.
Right.
You understand? Now, is there a part where I wasn't lazy? No, because I worked at my daughter's school, so I was able to prepare her with certain teachers, with certain things, and get that guidance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I also had a more insight working in the school system than other people would have had, other parents would have had. You see what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
I'm agreeing with Tim on the fact of we all got to be involved and we all got to, have our hands in it. But I'm also aware of the parents that can't do it. I'm aware, and I'm not giving an excuse, but I have to give a justification of, okay, what do I do with that parent that has to work a second shift job? What do I do with that parent that it could be two parents that just don't know even with the information? So somewhere we got to have adult education and give people the tools, right? And teach them how this stuff works. Because like I said, there was even a correction I made. I said at 18, you should be able to do this. Now, even I have to take back that 18 as the number to get out your parents. I have to now say, okay, maybe kids got to stay home until they're 22, 23 versus 18. So I don't think it's a quick fix. I think there's a whole lot that needs to be talked about. And I do agree with Tim. Now that I kind of take a look at it, where do we draw the line and say, okay, here is the line. And now that we've drawn this line, now everybody knows what the entry is, because everybody is not made for college. That's the one thing that I will agree with. Mm-hmm. Everybody is not made for college, but what we have done is decentivize trade schools. Mm-hmm. We've decentivized it where we're pushing everybody to go to college, where maybe that kid that was a 2.5 in high school, but he can freaking take your engine apart and put it back together like it ain't no tomorrow. You see what I'm saying? He may not be able to write a 10-page college thesis, but he can naturally be able to take your whole computer apart and put it back together and then edit your video and keep on going. So we got a lot of talent that doesn't necessarily need a degree, but we've now decentivized trade schools, and we've decentivized so much that if you don't have a degree, you're not even human. We don't need you're beneath.
Right. Hey, let me just point this out real quick. I want to clarify. When I say I did not know, the biggest part, I guess I was really saying, is not the cost. I know what the cost of a credit hour is. To me, it was coming from a little country town. I didn't know. You don't know where you're going to go. I didn't know the real cost of living in said city when you get down to the nuts and bolts. I knew I couldn't go home. I already knew when I left I couldn't go back home because it didn't pay enough. So it was just like it was the other factors for me, not necessarily college. I knew the degree I got would pay me well enough. It was the hey, how much does it cost? Am I going to be in Atlanta? Am I going to be in Houston? And I specifically made the choice not to go to Houston because I saw that it would be cheaper to stay on this side, you know, in Atlanta. And actually I took a job. That's why I took a job in a town I did not want to live in, because I knew it was cheap to live in, but I could get the most bang for my buck until I could move up or whatever. But I do think we just have to have some approach where I just think something has to change. It cannot continue to, we got to get rid of what we don't know work, what we know doesn't work, and just giving out whatever to anybody. That's got to go away. That's got to go away.
And that's what Tim was saying.
This is the stance I'm coming from. I'm coming from the stance of, so we like Uncle Stu example. He said the family that's working, that they can't make time. Well, I'm saying today we got to start making time and start learning. Why? Because most jobs offer some type of tuition reimbursement, something to send a person back to school. You got scholarships out here. So what all I'm saying is, in this era now, we got to now pick up all those pieces that we know we don't work, we know we want. Every child that gets into becomes a freshman in high school, the parent automatically should be thinking about if they're going to want to go to school or not. So it's up, the onus is on the parent in that case. Now, also, we need to put programs in place to start equipping the teachers that's in front of our kids about teaching and talking about this stuff. This is the type of stuff that needs to also be talked about during the curriculum being in class. I don't care if it's science, I don't care if it's math or whatever. If they do it in homeroom before they even start going to their subject classes. But this is the type of stuff that needs to be talked about, so that way everybody have the same language. So what is that? What you know what that does? That the more you create germinating the seed, the more at some point something gonna grow, even if a weed grow, but something is going to grow. And I think that's where we got to get to, because now we're just going to continue doing the same thing. Oh, well, we didn't know. Okay, but we got information. Okay, but we see we never going to set a standard. That's the reason how we still got all this information in front of us, and we keep still saying we didn't know. Oh, they tricked us. It was predatory loans, this and that. And a lot of times, like people, we good for frowning upon a community college.
Right.
Like,
right.
Because people so caught up on, let me brag about the Avali school that I'm going to or I went to. But they're going to go get a degree that they're not even going to use, and they're going to get a degree that's not even marketable. But they went to an Avali school. Or we get excited about, you should go away for college. We can tell them about the college, send them away, but we didn't do anything to equip them for their life. Because the college experience is not life.
Yeah.
And so it's these things is what I'm saying. At its root, we got to start something. This is not the only way. I'm just saying this is a way to let's y'all start fixing it.
Right.
Because the same way, here's the reason why I'm saying that for me, and maybe I'm wrong, I don't have kids, okay? But I'm saying this from the outside looking in, as though when I had to make my journey, I came from I'm a 79s baby, okay? So when I decided to go, I'm the youngest of 5. My parents didn't go to school. None of my siblings went to school. I had to figure everything out on my own. Nobody there. Not saying everybody can do it like me, but if I'd done it during the time I didn't even have all this information, everything had to be done in the library. Everything had to be done when we jumping in my car and driving somewhere or getting a ride with somebody.
Right.
So how is it we can still be saying the same thing that happened 20 plus years ago? We still saying that today.
Because if you think about it, HBC, here's the credit that I give historically black colleges. And this is the thing that, I'm going to say, because being in North Carolina, you had the 3 largest HBCUs on the East Coast. You have Central, you got North Carolina A&T, you got Winston-Salem State. The one credit that I give to HBCUs, they was willing to accept a kid that had a 2.0 coming out of high school because they felt they can get that kid through school. So many people that went through HBCUs almost flunked out of high school, but they was able to succeed going to a historically Black college. So I got to give them that credit. And I think that's another thing that, you know, places like North Carolina, areas of Virginia, definitely in DC, they push, and Georgia, they push HBCUs for that reason. I think we are still battling between a HBCU and a PWI. But I will give them that credit. I just think they don't have the backing, you know, that they need. And there's some other issues, but you know, I do agree with what Tim's saying in the sense of today there's no excuse. You know, today we gotta put it out there. I would rather one of other solutions, because I think there's so many different ways to look at it, is we got to re-incentivize trade school. When I was going through school, either you went to college, you went to a trade school, or you went to the military, or you got a job working for the city or the state. You know what I'm saying? But
let me ask you this.
There's none of those incentives.
Let me ask you this, Uncle Stu.
Yeah.
No, go back a couple of years, though, right? If you were going out of town, would you, and you got multiple cars, and you didn't want your kids driving the car, you gonna leave the keys at home while you're out of town? I'm not. See, that's my point. So I agree with you guys, but I have such a beef with it because it just does not add up. I get, the thing is, even if you know, what you got to realize is, I can tell you this right now. In Auburn and Alabama, well, in Alabama, you got Auburn, you got Alabama. All the marketing, all the history, all the legend, all of that, and this is in-state, all of that, those years of families, you got to go, you got to go, you got to go. It's cult-like. Some of these institutions are cult-like. It's not, if you give someone an opportunity, whether they belong there or not, and you're going to give them the money, they are going to go. Now, is it their fault? That's cool. But at the end of the day, we're going to cut $10,000 off of their student loans, and we're going to end up doing it again. So my point is, we have to get rid of this. It has to be multiple ways we do it. We cannot continue to just put money. It's the only system where we just say, hey, it don't matter. No credentials. Show up, sign paperwork, take whatever you want, go wherever you want. And you cannot give that much power to someone who's 18 years old, because there's going to be tons of people whose parents didn't do their job. You're going to always have all these people who don't know. And here's the deal. They don't have to do their research. That's what we got to remember. They don't have to. You know why? Because they can get the money. Even if they do know, they don't have to. They can get the money and go, and then just not pay it. They can't default on it, but they just won't pay it. And it's going to continue to fall back on us. So I'm saying people that don't want to pay those bills, I'm talking about us who don't want to pay other people's debt. We got to.
I get it. Let me give you a scenario. Let me give you a scenario and tell me how you. Okay, let me give you, because you said something, and I'm gonna go back to North Carolina, and that way maybe I can get a better understanding. I want to take High Point, North Carolina.
Okay.
High Point was a city that you didn't need a college degree.
Right.
High Point was the furniture capital of the world. I mean, it really was. Okay. You can get a 6th grade education, go work in the factory, and buy your family a car, a house.
Like Detroit back in the day.
Exactly. So if you got family that was raised up that way, and now all of a sudden that whole economic system is wiped out, does the family in the 90s, in the 2000s, again, I'm not giving any excuse, I'm just giving a scenario. Do they really understand money, finance, and all this other stuff? Because I'm going to be honest, I'm just now learning certain things, and I'm over 50.
Right.
401ks was not around in the 80s.
Right.
I wish I would have really had a better understanding of what a 401k was when it came out in the 90s.
They were out. They were out. They just weren't prevalent.
Right.
Exactly.
But-
Right.
But here's
Do
the
you
thing,
understand?
Uncle-
Now, I'm not giving an excuse. I'm saying I'm giving all the arguments that way we can take action. Because I'm very
Right.
conservative in that giving away money. I'm very conservative in that. And it's like, okay, how do I do all of this and give a 10-year span and be able to say, okay, at the end of 10 years, here's now the way we're doing this versus, okay, everybody got to be here. But if I said, okay, one generation, 10 years, this thing got to shift. How am I going to turn this boat around? That's kind of how I'm looking at it. So I'm saying, okay, I'm gonna play real conservative on one side because that's my goal. Sort of like what Tim said. Here's the goal. Now I'm gonna play super liberal. Now, how do I get you from the super liberal side and in 10 years get you to the conservative side and
Yeah.
all facets? Is everybody gonna win? No. But do
No.
you understand? Like, I love what he said about, hey, y'all, I went to a library to get this information. Just like now, if all of y'all named a book, all three of y'all named 3 separate books, 10 will come in my house within a week and see all 3 of them freaking books because that's who I am. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I'm also privileged because I'm around certain people who can give me certain information and who can walk me through certain things.
Mhm.
So here's the key to fix that. So you asked, so this is the key, both liberal and conservative. We got to start where we have to start. The problem is, and I'm gonna just say this, and there's no offense to no one in the panel. We got to
Right.
remove ourselves and start where we at right now today. Doesn't matter
Gotcha.
about the past.
Right.
See, we can't talk about how we didn't know or did not know or could have known or wish we should have known or what our age is. We got to start right now. And then with what we know right now, we got to go tell somebody else. The same way how we can share bad information, good information. It's the same way we got to share and say, hey, you 16 years old. What are you going to do with your life?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you gonna go to school? You going to trade school? You don't know? Ask his parents why he don't know. Why you don't know what they're gonna do with themselves?
Right.
And then say, well, have you thought about them getting scholarships, getting grants? Have you thought about what your career gonna be? See, that's how you do it.
But see, I remember I'm the one saying pull it. I say
Right.
pull it completely.
You picking up the pieces right now. So if nothing else, even if they go in, it should not be. I'm just saying right now, we got to start where we got to start. I'm not saying all of us come from different background, different walks, different whatever. But at the end of the day, once you know something and you see something, you're supposed to say something.
Yeah. So I do agree, but also remember, like for me, it's where it's different. I'll just write a check, right? That's the difference between my kids, but also I won't be writing a check for them to go to Florida. Because it's just a waste of money, right? So I will self-correct them, but the biggest thing I can't figure out, I just we don't fix things. So I'm just strictly talking from a standpoint about someone who doesn't have kids, isn't sending anybody to school, why they wouldn't want this problem fixed on the front end. Someone who didn't even care about kids going to school. It just doesn't make sense. It does not make any sense that we just open up a blank checkbook that we will continue paying for down the road. That has got to get addressed. And anyone, it's not anyone when we've been shown throughout history that the majority of 18-year-olds are going to make the right decision. It doesn't matter how much information you have. We have information that smoking's bad. People smoke. That's what I'm saying is it doesn't matter how much information we put out there. 18-year-olds will not start making better choices as a whole. So all I'm saying is I'm talking about more so the good of the nation rather than the good of the individual. And I think the nation finally has to say, hey, we got to get out of this business. It's not good business. And that's why I'm saying there should be there should really be people demanding that they change something. But after them giving out $10,000, people will bitch and moan about it. And guess what? We'll end up doing it again, I guarantee you, in a couple of years, because the problem didn't get fixed. So that's my biggest gripe. I don't even care about the nuts and bolts of it all. I made too much they weren't gonna give me nothing anyway. Matter of fact, I don't even have federal loans anymore. They're all private, right? But my biggest gripe is why we just continue to make this big, like, at least when we had the housing crash, you had Dodd-Frank. We made some adjustments. We made some changes, which is why now we don't see the same problems that we had in 2008. I just don't understand, for the love of God, why we would continue after shelling out $10,000 to all these people to change nothing. It's just baffling to me. I don't understand. I do think there is information out there. Everybody's got to do what they can do. But what I do believe strongly is, as long as you're going to allow someone to have as much money as they want to go to their dream institution, they're going to do it. And we are going to pay the price at the end of the day. At the end of the day, regardless of what happens, we're going to continue paying for people's student loans. I don't think that's going to change.
I totally agree with that. Yeah. But I will say this, Perry, but what I'm saying is, though, just to kind of piggyback off of what you just said, when you say that 18-year-olds still going to not necessarily make the right decisions, right? I got a little pushback with that, because I think the more we equip, we may not get most of them initially, but I think over time we could first grab 10% more than we had the year before. Then the next year we can probably grab another 8%. Now over 2 years we grab 18%, because now they at least was aware. I think the key is letting somebody be aware. Then what they decide to do, that's on them, because you can't control the adult. I'm just trying to take away that layer of saying nobody knew, nobody was ever introduced, they never heard of it. It was all foreign, like a foreign language. That's all I'm saying.
And I think what this comment, that first generation corporate, I think this is what I was edging on, and again, when I express my historical, is not really even to go back to the 80s. It's like, okay, how do we get started? Where do we get started? What group do we start with? I agree. Start now. And then I don't want to even say outliers, because you could take, let's say Intentional, and he got some kid that's bagging groceries, and he tells them about this career in STEM, and says, look, you can go to school, you can go to middle, you can go to junior college, but this kid, for whatever reason, he's not making no money, and you give him that money. Guess what? He does that 2 years. He comes out, he's in a whole nother thing. That's why, like, just, speaking on a platform, that's why I don't use the term, what is it? Not Broken Dusty. What is that?
Pookie and Ray Ray.
Yeah. That's why I don't use Pookie and Ray Ray. Why I don't use Pookie and Ray Ray, and will never use Pookie and Ray Ray terminology, because guess what? The smartest guys that was around me when I first started the platform, one, came from that background. They came from that environment. Two, I do know it as a derogatory term created by women, but the key word was everybody I knew came from that environment, and they would say, Uncle Stu, this is how I grew up. But today, that's not who they are. Right. So it's like, I'll never use that term again.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm sensitive in certain areas, because it's like, I get what Intentional is saying. Look, we're gonna go over here and we're gonna write these papers, et cetera, et cetera. But if I got that kid that maybe can't write grammatical correct English, but he got all the other skills, okay, am I willing to invest in him in certain ways to get him through so that he can level up and do a whole lot better? It's just like I'm trying to do with my nephew, which is I'm going to teach you, I'm going to learn and then teach you video editing, a skill that you don't need a degree in, but it's still a skill that you can do while you in college and make you enough money to do what? Pay for your way through college, where you either if you got loans up front, you'll be able to still pay it off while you're in school. By the time you graduate, they're all paid off because your trade was able to do that.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just one thing. So that's why now you understand the beauty of politics. These are the conversations that real deep down in the weeds deal with. This is where the certain groups come in. You know, everybody talk about, well, we don't like lobbyists, we don't like interest groups. Well, in reality, this is where it all comes from. So the interest groups that is going to look after Tim's interests, the interest group that will look after your interest, the interest group that looks after my interest, gets in a room, and we talk to them and say, this is our interest, this is what we're looking at, and this is what we're looking at, this is what we look, and they take the 5 or 10% of the good ideas, put it together in the bill, and try to get it through.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the holisticness of politics. You know, I mean, it's some other
things,
but that's the holisticness of politics. So going back to this whole argument, these are the many different factions that we got to deal with. So I might be arguing for one faction of a group. Tim is arguing for a different faction of a group. So this is why, you know, we're saying the same thing you are, but we're looking after the interests of people who can't do it. So this is why I understand not giving everybody money, but I'm not in that full throttle of saying no, all because I know too many who came from environments that did make it out. When we argue 18 and we say, well, they don't have the mind, I think that's a sensitive area, all because I can give this same 18-year-old M16 and put them in a combat situation.
Fair enough. I mean, I think that's fair. And you got to understand too,
there's many different factions. So it's not really a right or wrong. It's what faction are we talking about?
And I'm cut different too. To me not knowing never mattered. I'm never going to sign a paper that I don't follow through with. It just was what it was. And my credit was too important anyway. So it didn't even matter if I knew or I didn't. You sign, you finish up, you know, and, but yeah, I just think it's a big issue that the biggest thing is I just don't see the overall problem going away. And it's just weird to me. I just don't understand. It's one of those things that kind of hangs out there. And I have seen, and I'm not even saying even Dodd-Frank. I mean, I'm in real estate, right? So I'm not even saying a lot of people don't like Dodd-Frank. It's made some things harder, whatever. I don't really have a take on it, but yeah, it's just that you see these same political talking points thrown on the table, but we don't make any headway on them, and it's just
I think that's
crazy.
where I'm gonna agree with Tim to make the headway now, because one of the keys that I noticed and it's something that slowly but surely I'm definitely advocating, even within my home and with the kids that's around me now. I need you to study economics. I need you to study finance. I need you to study the numbers. I need you to know the numbers. If my only weakness in life was not knowing the numbers, the average adult don't know numbers. The average adult don't know Wall Street. If you really look, the average adult does not know numbers. What did TJ say? Pocket watching with JT say? Why people are falling for scammers? Why are they falling? Why? Because the psychology of money. And what is the major psychology? We deal with money from an emotional standpoint. And if any of us can really be honest, until we teach money from a logical standpoint, we're very emotional people. One of the things that I'll say I learned was stop even talking about class systems. In the very beginning, I talked about class systems, and I still use it, but I use it a little bit looser now than, let's say, before, because even that is an economical myth, and I never recognized that.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? I never recognized that. So even me, who done went to college and still learning all this stuff, you see, so if the average kid going into high school, we're just going to deal on a high school level, if they don't understand real economics, and I ain't talking about dollar, pennies, coins, really understanding the numbers where they can make decisions based on the numbers, they're going to forever make bad choices and bad decisions. So if you stood before me and said, hey, yeah, college costs $20,000, but we're going to give you a 20. Do you really think I have the financial foresight to know whether or not I can make that kind of money? No, I'm trying to get out my parents' house. I get a chance to have a place to stay. You understand? There's more decisions, yes, maybe not made on the numbers, but then let's be honest. 4 years ago, that degree may make sense. 4 years later, that degree may mean nothing. It's like 4 years ago, who would ever thought about being a YouTuber as a real source of income? Average person would tell you no.
Right.
The
Yeah.
pandemic made it where this you can say, I'm a YouTuber, and people now look at you and say, oh, wow, what's your YouTube pay? They actually see it as a real career choice. You see what I'm saying? If you would have said that 4 years ago, just 4 years, oh, I want to be a YouTuber. Oh, you're a bum.
Yeah.
Well, that was the same way with coming up with talking about being a gamer.
Yeah.
People
Right.
looked
Yeah.
at that as like, fuck, what is that, man? That's some childish stuff, blah, blah, blah.
That's
And
not
they
a
were
real
making
job.
a killing.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
But I say this
It's true.
too. One of the things, at least for me, that I see is I think when we talk about this, because we spending a lot of time too talking about the people that's going to receive the $10,000 stipend for their student loan.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the people that did what they supposed to do and pay for their loan? See, the other side of that is you can create more people that did the right thing, but they're going to feel like the slap in the face. So next time they're going to become part of the group that want another handout.
And that's right. That's it right there. See,
But you know why?
Is that
So what, though?
that catch 22?
So what?
No, but I understand your
No,
standpoint.
and I'm not saying that, Tim. The reason I'm saying that is I'm telling you, I'm conservative. I don't believe in giving any handouts. The only reason I say that, though, I have to always be fair. If we were going to bail out Lehman Brothers they went under, but if we were going to bail out all these other people back then, is $10,000 too much for these American citizens? Right? I mean, if we're bailing out companies, and that always seems to be okay, am I to draw the line at the $10,000, whether you did or not? And the thing is many of those people, right, got there. Many of those people, let's face it,
Got their PPP.
Got their PPP. So it's like, I got to just that's why I say, so what? At some point, everybody's gotten so used to a handout. I mean, I just feel like, where can I draw the line? Everybody's getting a piece of it now. Whether you're, so I don't mean so what, because I don't really like it.
Right.
But that's what I mean. It's just like, it's so, but I agree with you. And my thing to that, the reason I guess my thought on that is, you're right. Well, I didn't go get loans, right? You're going to also have another sector who did get loans, but they're private loans. Who right. Like for example, actually, I did get loans. They were federal. They were. I was no way I could pay them back in 10 years coming straight out of college. The only way was to move them to private and lengthen it out to where it made sense until I started making more money. Should I gripe about not getting that $10,000? No, I just going to do what I got to do. It is what it is. So that's all I'm saying is, either way, there is no way to fix it all. That was my biggest gripe on the whole thing, was rather than give out any money, I just wish they had a full approach to where you fix it on the front end, but if you are going to give it out, you actually have courses or something that teaches people about receiving this amount of money, not this little paper you fill out that teaches you nothing about it. That's what I'm saying. If you're going to give it out, at least make them take a course, to where you got to set through and really understand, like, hey, if I take this much out, just a process other than signing some quick little note or whatever is the, is the thing. But yeah, man, I agree with you. It's like whack-a-mole, man. You pound one down, another one pops out. It's just
right.
It's a disaster. It is a disaster. Oh, look, ultimately, I do agree with you guys in the fact that I am a capitalist, right? So I don't generally like limiting what I do not like limiting what we allow 18-year-olds to do, right? So I used to make the argument about college football. Should we pay these guys? If we pay them, this will happen. I didn't think it was a great idea, but also I had a solution for putting that money aside so they can do something when they leave with it, right? Whatever, they're paying them. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's just one. I think the biggest gripe, the thing that gets me the most is it's really the trickery, and I don't understand why. That's why I harp on it, is the trickery of not being able to, and I've never filed bankruptcy, but it just is something that sticks out there that I just don't get. And I do think it causes more tricks, because I'm not a scammer, but yeah, what would make sense? Hey, if you can get your hands on a credit card for $20,000, pay for those first 2 years, never pay that back, and get you a scholarship. I mean, that's a terrible idea, but crazy enough, that's financially the smartest way to get out of it.
Right.
I mean, it shouldn't be that much twisting and turning to do. It's janky. And it's just something I can't really put my finger on. And I actually didn't know. I don't even know when that law about the not being able to file bankruptcy, I don't even know when that came about. It may have been that way for years. I have no clue. It's not something I ever thought about until I heard about it maybe 5 or 6 years ago or whatever.
That law came out because of New York. Yeah.
It's like
came out because of New York. Because what was happening was people was getting great degrees, NYU, Columbia. And what they would do is get out, and after 6 months, they'll file, bankruptcy to remove those high debts. And that's when they said, "Oh no, we got to stop it." So,
hey, right now that's looking a lot better than $10,000.
Yeah, but Mr. Awesome said something, and you pulled it up, but I didn't know who he's directing it to when he says what you mean just sitting and watching videos all day and talking about it? I didn't know if he was talking to somebody else.
He's talking about you being a YouTuber. That's what you do.
Oh, but Mr. Awesome, be honest, I ain't making the big YouTube money like everybody talking about.
Nah,
man.
Yeah,
you know what? You know what though? I'm gonna take a jab. You see people, they call themselves responding to content, and they'll just have like the straightest face. They'll be just sitting there like, in the video replaying.
Yeah,
and it's like the deer in the headlight.
They ain't no reaction.
Is this supposed to be content? What is it? What is it? They're just sitting there looking at it. I mean, and the video is playing, and they're not like responding, saying yeah or anything. I don't know.
But just to kind of piggyback, I was just saying that from the standpoint of but so you can lose some people. That's
right.
They're gonna go sway back over to the handout mentality as a justification. But I will say this, for the people that actually paid their stuff and they felt good about them doing it, those type people you ain't gonna have to worry about, because they're gonna become the ones that's gonna become contributors and doers. Because the thing about paying off your debt that you created, you create an internal thing that's irreplaceable.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
And I think that's why that's so critical. But I think here's the thing that the reason for me, how I interpret the government allowing anybody to get a student loan, whatever the case may be, is because they're saying that we know we got a screwed up system, and if you're dumb enough to sign up, we're going to get you.
Right.
That's how I interpret, and not saying that's what they're saying, but that's how I interpret it.
Right.
That's what they're saying, though.
It's no way to justify based off of you can't file it in a bankruptcy. I can give you as much as you want. Keep coming on back, and whatever you don't use, just go spend it.
Right. Right. Hey, I maintained the house though. Well, they should have just left housing alone then and let anybody get whatever they want. Because at least with a house, you have an asset.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? A physical asset. But yeah, and that's
it's
gonna be a cycle.
The part that you know, a lot of people's going to get upset with me of saying, and I know it because I was there during that whole bank situation. If the banks failed, where would the total national economy be versus you as an individual? And that is a hard pill to swallow.
Oh, I don't think it is. I don't think it's hard. It shouldn't be hard to swallow. I just think it's, to me, it's not that. It's the fact that they fail. You let them go back to doing the same thing is my problem.
Right.
You know.
But we also got to remember, and this is something that I try to keep, although I slip too, is each one of us also sometimes can be called the outlier. I can be called the outlier because I went to the military where nobody up here is a vet. So there's certain benefits and privileges I have the average person don't. So if I start living on my privileges without recognizing certain decisions I made over 25 years ago, you see what I'm saying?
Right.
I can be putting somebody else in a jam situation that, you know, because they don't know my full story. So sometimes I also got to watch out. Is he the norm or is he the outlier? See,
right.
Everyone can become Tim. You see what I'm saying?
See, but still, I think amongst us together on the panel, we covering all the outliers and the normal people just like you and I.
Right.
See, that's the key, I think. We're saying regardless of where you fall in the spectrum, these are the fundamental things you need to do. If you fully educated, financial savvy, parents paying for your college, all that, you still should be sharing back with the people that don't know. If you come from, you don't know, you didn't have nobody there, you didn't understand, well, you should be trying to find the information and going to start talking to people and stop talking about stuff that's not important. Talk about stuff that is important.
Right.
And if you fall in the middle, you're supposed to be doing the work to get to the highest you can get for you.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of what I'm saying. Because I think this is when we kind of put everything in one box, then that gives a person a reason to jump out. But if we make the box where there ain't no ends to it, then now what can you say?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why, you know why it hits home for me, man. The conversation I had with my mother this morning, my niece, this is my niece of all people. She wants to go out of state. You think I haven't talked to her? Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying. It's not that she hadn't been told. That's why I know it's deeper. It's something deeper. This family has told her over and over and over. You got great schools in Virginia. She wants to go out of state. That's why for me, it's like, it's tough because it's like, it kind of reiterated this morning. I'm like, I don't know how you get through to someone at that age. And the thing is, so that's why I say some of it, there's no way you can know. You can be educated, right? But you can't fully know something till you get involved, till you get to that point. But it just makes me think at the end of the day, she'll be able to do that. But you hate it because it's like you're going to watch people go, you're going to watch the very ones that you love the most go right down the exact same path. Now, it's different with my kids. That's why I say, if they want money from me, they're going to do what I tell them to do. Now, see, when I say that, people get bent out of shape. That one stream, people are like, oh, you're not going to let your kids do. No, I'm not. They're going to do, if they're going to take money from me, they're going to do certain degrees. And then if they want to go do art, I will pay for that as well. But they will get this certain degree first if they want to get money from me. They don't want the money, go do whatever you want. Go do art. But see, people have an issue with that because they say, well, you should let your... Nope. I'm going to set you up to have enough money and I'm going to pay for it. So I'm going to pay for it. I'm setting you up to have enough money to where you can chase your dreams. Because when you got an engineering degree and you don't owe nobody nothing, you can chase any dream you want to. And you want to go back and get art at that point, I'll pay for that too. But if you think I'm going to pay for art first, I'm not going to do it. You'll have to figure that out. You will have to figure that out on your own. And that's not to say I'm going to abandon them and not help them with the meal plan and things like that. I'm not saying that. They're my children. But for me to just pay for this education and all these credit hours in something, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to be a part of bad financial decisions, right. and that's just how it's got to be. So I can definitely control mine, but I just want to make that point. It's a crazy parallel where, like, I was just talking to my mom and we're talking about, we're going to come up with this spreadsheet just to really show her, hey, here's what you're talking about. If you stay in Virginia, just, maybe you do nursing or something. Imagine what type of money you're making when you don't owe nobody nothing, or we even looked at work study schools where you literally don't owe anything at all. So, and if she stays in Virginia, we can help and we can just cut her a check. But to cut a check to her to go somewhere that's double, it ain't going to happen. But we don't understand why, but I think it's just a youthful thing. And some of it is the marketing behind it. And I always tell people, once you graduate, no one cares where you went to school. No one. Now, maybe if it's Harvard.
Have you ever asked her why?
Yeah, and she doesn't really have, part of it is not all that crazy. There's a certain program she wants to do. And it's a very specific program dealing with, it's on the science side where they do things with these bodies, right? So that they can, that just sounds crazy. They burn them, they freeze them, they do all this stuff, right? So when they have I'll call it a 187 case, right? A homicide, they're able to go and say, oh, this body looks like it's been such and such because of all these studies we've done. That's very specific, right? But also when you're that age, the problem is a lot of stuff you think you want to do that looks cool because of CSI, you got to be very sure you want to do that. Right. Like, so I do say if it's something like that and you're 100% positive, well, you got to still apply for scholarships and try your best if that's specifically what you want to do. Mm-hmm. But even to that, though, I believe if you could stay in state and find a way to get it for free. My thing on that is nowadays in Virginia, you can come out with 2 years already done. At least do that, work on getting the scholarships and see if you can maybe minimize it down, something like that, to maybe 30,000. Can you find a way? You have to, because to me, you have to be realistic. At that point, if it's something I definitely want to do, I'm going to try to come out and maybe owe 30, 35, the type of money she'd be making. It's doable. It makes sense in that case. But it's just that thing of going out of state and owing, because you've already got 2 years that you knocked out in high school. But to go not knock out any of that, go down there for 4 years out of state, it's $100,000 credit. It's $1,000 of credit now out of state, basically. That you cannot justify that in my mind. So yeah, that was the thing. That's part of it she wanted to do. That's the main thing. It's just some specific type of program. So I think now it's just narrowing it down and making sure that's 100% what she really wants to do. Where did this idea come from? Because I don't want to discourage. I don't. That's not a bad degree. That's not a bad thing to get into. But you just got to make sure that it's really what you want. And just working on bodies, it may sound cool when you're like 17, but I don't know that that's going to be so cool when you're like 24. Like,
it's a nightmare.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't.
But here's the good thing about that, Perry. And this is the thing I think we just got to, because you're gonna have winners and losers, right?
Yeah, you will.
But you got to know though, at least you all had a chance to share it with her. You don't know, she may do a year and then she realized that, hey, what Perry said is really resonating with me and I'm going back.
Right.
So and because that's all we can do. We just got to control giving them the information. We still can't control the outcome.
Right.
But and I think that's, in that case, then our job is done, because I feel like we done what we can control, which was giving them the information. But here's the thing: if we do that enough, we know out of 10 we're gonna get 2.
Right. You're right.
So that's numbers. That's that we you can never defeat the numbers.
Yeah, I
and
agree.
then you also and then
get 2.
right, and then you got to take your feelings out of it.
I can't. I'm being honest with you. I can't.
Right.
I'm not able to.
Right. And the reason I say you got to take your feelings out of it, again, that's JT. I can hear JT's echoing in my head. So you got to forgive me. But, you know, it really does come almost sometimes down to feelings, because, you know, here's the thing. I heard you say, well, how do you know about the bodies? And the question is, you might can't stand the bodies, but she might love it. You see what I'm saying?
Oh no, yeah. You know, absolutely.
Knowing I don't want to be in no surgery room looking at certain things all day.
Yeah, right.
But somebody else I know will geek out on that stuff all day.
Right.
Then you're talking about a very narrow field, which means the income potential is extremely high.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Because that's not an area that is going to have a large market appeal.
Yeah, and I'm actually on that part, really don't care so much as just, it's really the when you do go to school, just make sure it's what you want to do. That way, because a lot of people, I didn't change my major. I knew what I was going to do from the minute I went, and I stuck with it, and that's what I did. Make sure that's what you do.
If you look at the data, and I'm quite sure we could pull it up, that's an outlier. And I'm going to tell you why. The average kid within 2 years, they say, changed their major at least twice.
Yeah, no way. That's correct. And I believe you. I'm saying it's wow. Yeah.
Because my daughter started off with going to college for English, changed her major and got a degree in mathematics.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So you know, but that's average. That's normal, you know, where someone starts off one way and either they love it, but you don't love something until you really get into it. It's like the military. Hey, that the commercial looks great. It's awesome. But you get in there, you find out something totally different. It's like, what the heck did I sign up for?
80%. That's wild. Right. And I believe it. I definitely believe it. Yeah, right. I knew going in, because to me, it was about the money. It was about, what do I want to do that I know I can make money in? It was either going to be engineering or it's going to be supply chain management, logistics. It was I didn't think about nothing else.
And I'm going to tell you, if you think about it, if you told everybody, I'm going to school for supply chain, people would look at you and be like, well, what in the world degree is that? Like,
oh, yeah. They did, but see, I also did this. I also had studied and knew that logistics had been around a while, but the full supply chain study was newer. And there was like 3 schools, one of which I went to, that were the best 3 in the nation. So I knew that I was in good place. And I even knew that they said someone was hired out. A person was hired out the previous year that made 72 grand. And I was like, okay. That doesn't mean I will. I didn't suspect I would, but okay, here's the top, here's the low. I knew the range of what I could work with. And I knew that I knew that within 2 years I could get to 80. And it was less than that. And then I knew within a couple more years, if that long, I could get to 100. And then I knew the sky was the limit. So that's kind of how I took it. And the reason why I did not choose engineering was simply because I did not know enough about, I felt like it might take me longer to get to 100 in supply chain, but I've always liked like transportation. And I know I need to be someone that's on the move. Now, you might be, Tim knows that, maybe in engineering you are. Hell, he's traveling somewhere else every other week. So maybe I chose wrong. But I thought that I thought because of what I'd heard in engineering, I'd heard from that you could spend a lot of time by yourself.
Yeah, that's
just
true.
working on. Yeah, so that's why I was like, which is fine. Now I do it all the time now, but I was like, you know what? I'd like to be out and about. But now take that back. Would I rather be engineering than managing it? And I know some engineers manage people as well, but then managing 200 people, absolutely. I mean, I like managing, but the number that I've managed, I'll take engineering.
Look, I'm gonna say this as a joke. You know, you could join certain branches of the military. You could travel every 6 months. But I just want to say I really enjoyed, and I'm very humbled, you know, to be up here with distinguished guests talking about finances, etc. So I appreciate y'all letting me tap in with y'all and speak
thank you.
Subjects.
Oh, no problem. Great conversation. Great conversation.
You have any final thoughts for us, Uncle Stu?
Let's keep moving the ball forward. Our numbers might look low in the sense of participation in the chat, but it's going to be a forever staple that we are looking for solutions and not always crying about the problems. You know, and that's it. So we're going to keep moving the ball forward. So, you know, this conversation definitely gave me bigger conversations to be able to talk about on my platform and be able to say, hey, let's look at the numbers. Let's look at where we going. What are we doing? May not be the most popular of conversations, may not give me the 20K in one video, but if I can help one person be better today than they was yesterday, I did my job.
Salute, Uncle Stu. We appreciate you, man. Appreciate you coming up.
Hey, Uncle, I just want to say,
wise words.
Appreciate you, man. And please have the missus write up student education into the contract.
Oh Lord. Look, I already said y'all saw me playing granddad while I was on the live. She was like, you want me to take him? Like, nah, he's asleep. We got this.
Right.
You know? But you know, something we you know definitely going to be talking about, you know, when you're talking about education, when you're talking about finance, you know, I get to see it firsthand exactly what's going on the ground, you know, with him. But you know, we're moving into that area. We're really talking about that area of homeschooling. So, you know, we're really treading into territories that, you know, at least for us, none of us was quote unquote homeschool. But when you start talking about, hey, we need to take the deep dive. We need to talk about homeschooling. You know, we need to even talk about it on the platform. Is homeschooling going to be the future? You know, and how that's gonna, you know, work itself out. So, you know, he knows that he's going to be surrounded by a bunch of strong men, both in money and finance and business, you know. And do I want to take that opportunity to send him to a public school that's going to have him thinking emotionally and get in touch with sides of his life that he doesn't make sense to me? But, you know, again, looking at homeschooling, and if I got to go to private school route, you know, what type of private school, you know, we're going to send him to.
Right.
So that's a whole nother conversation in and of itself.
Yeah. I mean, it's important. I mean, I never would have thought 22 years ago. I had a coworker who was being homeschooled, and back then it was a foreign concept, and he was an anomaly. But I mean, his parents were hard pressed to make sure that he was going in that direction, and they knew something about it, but I really didn't understand it at the time. But now, having seen what happened with the pandemic and seeing the benefits, I mean, I think it's one of the surefire ways to make sure that you're contributing to the investment into your child's growth and playing a direct hand in that happening, as opposed to counting on the school system to do it.
Yeah, and really, I didn't even think about homeschooling until I lived in North Carolina. North Carolina is a pretty hardcore state for, you know, that homeschooling curriculum. So, I'm gonna definitely, take a deeper dive and try to figure it out here.
We appreciate you coming on, man, and hope you have a good rest of the night.
All right, you too. Thank y'all.
Take it easy, bro. All right, sir. Bye. All right, all right, fellas. So I'm glad we had this discussion, and it really brings up some really good concepts. I want to make sure that I acknowledge everyone in the chat. Salute to everyone in the chat. So everyone that's come through. We've had a little bit of everyone come through. We've had Wally. He was here from the beginning. Uncle Stu came through. Salute to Kareen. Kareen says, salute to Uncle Stu. You saw him up here. Well Tuck Productions. First Gen Corporate. Gail for coming through. We appreciate you coming through. Judy, Melissa Jane, appreciate you coming through. Melissa Jane has a show she's doing on Thursdays where she's telling her story about retiring early. It's an interesting show. Salute to Titanium for coming through. Mr. Awesome, we appreciate you participating in the chat. We have Jenny Marano 6913. Salute you coming through. I'm struggle streaming, guys. I'm so far behind. It's crazy. Salute everyone that's come through. I want to make sure I acknowledge everyone. Let me see. Mr. Awesome. Mr. First Gen Corporate had some really good things to say. And actually, everyone's had some really good things to say. I appreciate you all participating in this conversation, man. I mean, I think it's important. And one of the things that I wanted to make sure that I outlined, salute OG Patrice for coming through. It's been a long time. Great to see you here. One of the things that's really important and I wanted to outline is that, the things that are happening here in America that I see as potential opportunities to empower other sectors of the community to benefit and to have an opportunity to be involved. I don't know where America, I don't know. I think it's maybe the Act of the Treasury Act from 1914. Maybe that was the one bill that kind of threw America off. That's where the central bank was established. And maybe it forced a lot of America to be controlled by these banking institutions and a lot of the decision making to be made from that standpoint in order for them to benefit. It's just really interesting that whenever decisions are made, you are really at the mercy of a lot of the opportunities that you cross paths with, whether it's the housing industry, definitely the student loan industry, and I don't know if I could say that if America was really interested in their citizens really benefiting, they wouldn't make these loans, at least these predatory loan providers. They wouldn't give them an opportunity to be able to do business with the children, But I don't know which way is the best way or how to even stop it at this point, because I believe that they're probably too far in bed in order for them to really do anything, When we even think about the government, they go to, are you guys familiar with, I think it's 150 Park Avenue? Have you guys ever heard of 150 Park Avenue?
Mm-mm.
I think it's 150 Park Avenue. 150 Park Avenue is where all the billionaires live. I think it's called 150 Park Avenue, guys. I've seen it.
Actually, it's crazy you say that. I think I saw something about 150 Park Avenue this morning, actually.
Yeah. I think it's 150 Park Avenue in New York. And the thing about it is that's where all the billionaires live in New York, like the guys with the big fish.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the things that happen in America, they go to those guys in order for them to get to get signed off on stuff. Man, I can't find it right now.
Oh, wow.
It's something along those lines. Like, let's say, the guys who run BlackRock, they live in that building.
Okay.
Don't quote me on the building address. It's Park Avenue for sure, but I can't remember what it is.
Okay.
Maybe First Gen Corporate knows it. But I'll just say that, man, we just have to be careful who we're in bed with, and that could be on a personal level with the people you're choosing to have your loans with or have you servicing your loans, or that could be the people who you choose to fund your education. I'd almost say that it's probably like a save yourself mentality that says, hey, if you really care about your children, you'll make sure that they don't sign up for these loans, I'm sure there's a conversation that's like that happens somewhere, man.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And I'm not really sure, but I think that for you to have a loan that's unforgivable forever, I think it's designed for the people who are just not in position, who are not privileged like your children would be. And along the lines of what Tim is saying, is that we're not really eliminating the excuse that we have not tried other avenues. We're just saying the loans are the first way that we're going to go about pursuing and funding our education. We're not exploring opportunities to get grants and get scholarships.
Right.
We're just saying, hey, I want the student loan because I want the refund check so I can live and finance my life. And if we were to probably do the math, how much in interest is that those 4 years of life really costing us? You know what I mean?
Right.
It just, I don't think we have those conversations. We can analyze how much it's costing us in other spaces, but we can't say, hey, okay, from the time I graduate from school, this is how much interest has accrued. That $4,000 while I was in undergrad is costing me now 16. And does it make sense for me to even have attained those degrees, But I think the financiers would say, well, that's your problem. That's between you and your parents. Y'all weren't in position to actually go to school without having to come to us. So that's your problem. But
right.
I mean, I don't know how else to really look at it. But when I've watched documentaries on like Amazon, Generation Wealth, that Park Avenue movie. I've watched a bunch of documentaries about how I'd almost say perverse these efforts are to make sure that people are in debt. Like, think about like from the time that you're a child, you're literally most of the time you're like a zombie. Like you look at the programming that happens from a young child, marketing to you in order for you to buy toys and food. And I mean, you're being programmed the whole time, all the way up until pretty much death. So I don't know if we can really blame people for not knowing any better because they're caught up and distracted with social media and reality TV or whatever else is going on. And they're not focused enough for them to actually take action that's going to contribute towards them going to where they want to go in life. So I don't know. What do you all think, man? I mean, there's something that's a part of the bigger picture that we can say that people need to figure it out, but they just have to get out of that trance. They have to get out of that place where they're just distracted with everything else besides what's going to really benefit them in the future.
My thing is this, and it's real quick. I think we didn't got it. The world has become so easy for people. It's easy for us to set and go all on the wrong stuff. Because if you think about before we had everything easy accessible, we had to work for things. And because we had to work for things, we put more time into making sure we work for the right stuff. So that's kind of what I'll say. Like I said, I just think that I get it. I do get that it's so much programming and conditioning, but the same way we all able to get on this panel and kind of talk about it because we made it through, it could be another 3 people on another panel that made it through. And then from that 3, it could be another 3 people on another panel that made it through. And before you know it, we got 20 people that made it through. And that's all you need, because it's just like voting. 1 vote equals a lot, and 1 lot equals who wins. And that's kind of my stance on it. I don't, I get it. I understand. It's a bigger journey at hand because we do got to work beyond the programming. The programming has seeded so well that it's even hard to recognize you being programmed or conditioned. So I do understand. I'm just talking about where do we need to go from here forward as one method, not the only method, but just one method. So
yeah, I think so here's the way I look at it. I think a lot of it's culture, right? We're fighting culture. And maybe I actually think some of that's getting better, right? Like, because it's crazy enough. I actually believe, the bling bling and all that trash is about gone for like, I'm not just talking about the term, but all the there'll always be money and stuff like that. But I think a lot of that is, though we're seeing more, I guess I'm saying it's went over more to social media than anything. And that's still a problem, but at least getting it out of the music and the music changing. I feel like 10 years from now, they'll all be backpack rappers, right? Just wearing regular clothes. It's not about the flash and stuff as much. And at least to get out of the music, because the music is really powerful, will help. But the way that I approach it, I have to live in a way. I was telling my mom, I got to live in a way that I need my kids to look at me and me be the example and walk such a tight line. So by the time the world gets to them, this is what they know, and they can't be strayed as easy. So even myself, man, the only debt when my children are old enough, and I don't have that much debt already, but other than a house payment, and that's if that, right? Because that's because we need to move. We want to move to another school district, or I wouldn't even have that. And I might rent. I don't know. I might, because I might let my properties just pay for me to rent, so I don't take on a mortgage. But ultimately, that'd be the only payment I have. Like, as a family, we don't have debt. I just don't want my kids seeing us being a family that has debt. I mean, I'm to the point now, before I would want to finance another car, I would drive a trash can. Because I just don't care. I don't care what people think I look like. I could care less. I'd rather have the bread. I'm flying out of the country to Europe pretty soon. I continue to do that. You see me driving a trash can, whatever. But it's not about playing some part for someone else. I'm able to, you'll see my pictures and realize I'm doing just fine. That's just the way I have to look at it and set the example for them. So I'll say all that to say, I think we each have to try to live in a way, we got to take care of our own. But I do believe we got to reach to others. So I believe those extensions of my children, their friends, I got to really be engaged and try to help them learn and try to get my kids to, my parents, my parents don't have debt. So they go home and ask their parents. Maybe they can say, oh, well, they don't have debt, just to start the conversation and do it that way. Because, for example, my mother went back to school when I was young. I mean, I was like 4. So she went back. I saw her life change. I mean, we came off of welfare, moved up. She took out loans, took her a long time to pay them back. With me, I did what I know. I don't blame her because it worked, right? It was the right decision, clearly. Mm-hmm. But, she taught me some things. So my thing is, my children, I'll pay for them to get their education. And then I want them to advance the next generation forward. So that's what it's all about, is just everybody taking care of their own, but also reaching out and teaching what you can. But they say, reach one, teach one, right? So that's the way that I look at it. That's a perfect example right there, man. Perfect example. Is just keeping it simple. And what's funny is, we had talked on one of our first streams that we had done. I was telling you guys, I was like, look, doesn't matter how much money I make, I always go and buy another Altima. Well, I was in an accident. Someone rear-ended me. They totaled my car out. What I do? I did exactly what I said I was going to do. I just went and got another one, just because I don't need it. Doesn't need to be flashy. Doesn't need to be something like that. My wife does drive something nicer, but you know what I'm saying? We still keep it simple. So we don't, I mean, you know, we're not driving $100,000 vehicles and all that for no reason. Just don't need to. So that's the way I look at it, man. It's just what I can do is focus on mine and then try to reach those in my proximity, and then use YouTube as well. So that's pretty crazy, man, to see just that modest living, man, like that. I respect that.
$10 billion. $10 billion net worth. And then he's driving a Honda. But don't be fooled now.
Nah.
Because I could pull it. I got a trick I could pull out of the hat real quick too about Jeff Bezos. But I mean, I think there's got to be a spectrum, right? Like it's something that you got to do while you're. It's something that you got to do while you're in the building phase, you know, because I think that one thing that we have to acknowledge is that when you're working on something, you shouldn't be spending lifestyle money while you're working on something, man.
And if you saw me if you saw me in a G-Wagon, and by the way, no problem with that. I don't care. If people want to spend $100,000 on a car, that's fine. If you saw me in one, you automatically know I planned it out and I bought enough real estate that paid for it and 25% more. So I've got assets that will far exceed that down the road. Will probably pay me triple what I paid for the car down the road. That's the only way I'm adding something like that. There's zero chance I add something like that without me first buying, you know, hey, if that was going to be a $1,500 a month car payment, well, I probably added $2,500 to $3,000 a month in, you know, rental payments from buying real estate, and everything else would already be paid off and taken care of. So that's the way that that's just the way I look at it, you know?
Yeah, man. So, you know, I think that, you know, you just have to respect that the humble position that some of these guys take. I mean, now he's one of the wealthier peoples, and his yacht is worth $485 million, you know, and that's the same guy who, when he was worth $10 billion, he was driving a Honda Accord. So there's a spectrum to you know, the mindset, but they say that this guy doesn't own like a sports car, but I just saw a second ago he said that he had $200 million in cars. So it's really difficult to really tell, but either way, it doesn't matter, right? Because at that point, he's just enjoying the fruits of his labor, and he's just doing whatever he wants, man. So
absolutely good stuff, man.
But yeah, man. But yeah, it's been great having you all. Do you all? I don't know. I guess maybe we could use that as your final statements. Do you have any closing statements, Tim, for the people? Do you have any closing positions that you'd like to mention?
Yeah, I just want to say for everyone, just pay attention. Make sure you go out there and still do three things that I'm always share. I think the first thing you should, three things that I always share. One, make sure you get financial education. Two, make sure you get a mentor. And then three, continue to work on your skills so you can level up and be able to generate income outside of your 9 to 5. And there's no particular order. You need to be doing all three all at the same time. And that way you have a better chance of getting the type of outcome that you want financially and spiritually, physically, and mentally. Because with those three things, if you could do it in those three areas all concurrently, you can leverage in all the other areas of life.
Terrific. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. Well, thank you for coming through, man. I'm thankful for you coming through and sharing your perspective and sharing the passion that you have for these topics. You know, like, I think it's really important as someone who's not a parent at this very moment, but you really see the benefits of having a specific strategy, even independent of you being a parent. So we definitely appreciate your insight and your wisdom. Thanks a lot for what you've shared today, man. And I look forward to the next one.
All right. Well, you gentlemen have a good one. And thank you as always. Salute to everyone in the chat. Appreciate you tuning in and supporting. And we're gonna definitely do it again. And I want to thank you, Sim, for allowing me the opportunity. I want to thank Perry for always bringing his insight and guidance. And we can continue to move the ball forward. So thanks, everyone. Y'all have a good night. And welcome, Miss Melissa Jane and MJ Nation is in the building. And
Salute.
y'all have a good
Salute.
Salute. All right, Perry. And so, Perry, you have any closing statements for the people?
No, this is just actually a bit different of a note. I'll just leave with this, man. There's a lot of trash out here on the internet and people trying to live based on what someone says. You know, I got this, I got that. Not everybody's living who they say they are. So I just think people should be careful trying to emulate other people. If you'll notice, I'm quick to tell you about the Altima that I got. When it came to my wife's car, what I say, you know, my wife's got something a little nicer. It does me no good to just name nice rides and stuff like that. It doesn't. What's important, it's sad that we are in a place where that's what people will listen to, right? But I just say that because I think we have reached a dangerous place where, you know, I get on YouTube and I just see so much self-absorbed. It's all about items and things like that. Just don't get caught in that trap. Just do not, especially, you know, people older, maybe you're already there, but at least younger people, do not get caught in this trap and on this hamster wheel because it'll take your health. So that's just the thing I wanted to point out. Other than that, I love these conversations, always enjoy. And you can see that we don't always agree on everything, but I bet if you put our methods together, you'll see that we're all headed in the right place. So I really enjoy having these conversations, and these are the types of conversations we should be having. So thank you for having me. I always enjoy it. I'm down to roll anytime y'all want to talk about finance, you know, whether it be crypto, real estate, whatever it is. I just enjoy the banter, the back and forth, man. So thank you very much, and salute to everybody in the chat.
Salute. Appreciate you, bro.
All right, man.
All right. Well, I appreciate everyone that's come through, and I appreciate every one of you that's in the chat. And, you know, it's just really important that we have an opportunity to really address these matters. You know, I think that, you know, opportunities to generate income are really important, and really access to those things are really important for all of us, you know. And at some point, we have to take ownership of our path and choose the path that will serve us best, you know. And like they've said, you know, being humble is a great start, and it's a great opportunity for us to put ourselves at the place that we want to be at. And as a community college graduate, there was tremendous value in me being able to pay for my education out of pocket in order for me to have the peace of mind of saying I owe no one no student loan debt. That's not to say that I think that people should not have an opportunity to be forgiven the loan. You know, the $10,000 probably only applies to, if we're being honest, it only applies to maybe even a small part of the interest, you know. But there has to be a better way, you know, that has direct benefit to the people without just benefiting only the finance companies, you know. So with that said, I appreciate you all, and I look forward to the next opportunity for us to have a discussion and for you all to come and join me here and join us on within our discussion. And until next time, peace. All right. And you all have a great night.